Chapter 798. In the second half of the cultivation. Among the 39 higher-ups of the Council of Light, led by Qin Wanqiu, Duan Ruyan, Master's wife, and Zhu Hongxue, 7 of them had broken through to the Great Grandmaster realm. Although it was not as good as the previous cultivation, it was still within Yang Dingtian's expectations. In this cultivation, Qin Wanqiu had broken through from a 7-star Great Grandmaster to a 9-star second-tier Great Grandmaster. He had once again replaced Dongfang Minmi as the 3rd Master of the Council of Light. Elder Ning Busi had broken through from a 5-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster to an 8-star Great Grandmaster. Perhaps because he was too old and did not have a strong desire to win, the overall breakthrough was not big. Duan Ruyan was originally a 9-star grade 9 Grandmaster. She had an extremely tough personality and was extremely competitive. Coupled with the replenishment of the evil spirit energy, she was able to make up for it. With the help of the evil spirit, she had directly broken through from a 9-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster to a 6-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster. The level of her breakthrough was completely shocking. She was considered one of the most outstanding people in the second half of the cultivation. For example, Yun Kailin, who was originally a Great Grandmaster, had only broken through to a 4-star 5th-tier Great Grandmaster in the first half of the cultivation, falling behind Duan Ruyan. There was another surprise, which was Zhu Hongxue. Although he had lost an arm, it was as if he had been reborn. Before coming to the Taboo Continent to cultivate, he had already been a 4-star Great Grandmaster. After the cultivation here, he had directly soared to a 9-star 4th-tier Great Grandmaster. It was believed that in the near future, the Council of Light would have another Great Grandmaster. There was another surprise in this cultivation, which was Master's wife. Master's wife had originally been a 5-star Great Grandmaster. Perhaps because she had seen her precious young Dingtian snatched away, she had desperately invested in the cultivation when she came to the Taboo Continent to cultivate. She wanted to strengthen herself so that she could better protect Yang Dingtian's babies in the future. Therefore, after the cultivation, she had directly become a 9-star 6th-tier Great Grandmaster. She was not far from becoming a Great Grandmaster. Another important person was Yun Qi, the current Pavilion Master of the Cloud Sky Pavilion and Yun Kailin's senior sister. She had originally been a 9-star 8th-tier Great Grandmaster. This time, she had directly broken through to a 3-star 1st-tier Great Grandmaster. On the other hand, Kuei Qing's cultivation results this time were barely satisfactory. Initially, Zhang Xian was a 1-star grade 8 Zongshi Master, but after completing his cultivation, he had advanced to a 5-star grade 6 Zongshi Master. Perhaps she wasn't that ambitious to begin with. Instead, it was Kuei Ning's mother, Kuei Si's wife, who was once wrongly accused of being an agent of evil ways. She seemed to be holding her breath as she soared from a 1-star 9th grade Grandmaster to a 7-star 9th grade Grandmaster. There was another important person, Song Shao. He had lost a leg, and this time, he brought a prosthetic leg into the Taboo Continent to cultivate. Before he started cultivating, he was a 2-star grade 5 martial Grandmaster. He also wanted to become stronger and take revenge on Tai Muley with his own hands. However, perhaps he had suppressed his anger too much and sought victory too much. Therefore, his cultivation results could only be considered average. He had broken through from a 2-star 5th grade Grandmaster to a 5-star 1st grade Grandmaster. In short, after this cultivation, the Council of Light had a total of 20 more Great Grandmasters and 7 or 8 would-be Great Grandmasters. Now, the number of martial Grandmasters in the Radiant Parliament had exceeded 30. In a few years, the number of martial Grandmasters in the Radiant Parliament would definitely exceed 40. In the human countries, the number of top masters had already surpassed that of the Sea of Hades and the Vulture Palace. Now, Yang Dingtian finally understood why the Sea of Hades had more than 20 Great Grandmasters. Previously, it had completely monopolized the cultivation resources of the entire Taboo Continent. In the past few years, it had finally accumulated more than 20 Great Grandmasters. However, it was only a force that controlled a region after all. In terms of numbers, it was still inferior to the Council of Light. Therefore, the Council of Light had gained more than 20 great grandmasters after just one cultivation. Now, compared to the Vulture Palace, the Serpent Men Empire, and the Sea of Hades, the Council of Light only lacked half-sage level top masters. Currently, this hope had landed on Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian. Both of them had hopes of breaking through to the half-sage level in a short period of time. Once Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian had both broken through to the half-sage level, then, the Council of Light would directly launch an aggressive offensive before the Doomsday War. They would take down the Vulture Palace, the Serpent Men Empire, and the Sea of Hades. In the end, they would completely unify the power of the entire world to fight against the Doomsday army of the Demon King Wentian. The entire cultivation lasted for nearly half a year. The time to part with Wu Yuming and Ling Wu had finally arrived. It was very obvious that Wu Yuming had long avoided this so-called farewell. When Yang Dingtian flew out of the Hall of Heads, he had already disappeared. Yang Dingtian said to Ling Wu, "Now, I can help you break through to the Great Grandmaster level, right?" Ling Wu nodded. Previously, when Yang Dingtian wanted to use the Mystic Flame Lightning to help Ling Wu break through to the Great Grandmaster level, she had rejected every single one of them. She said that she wanted to wait until the cultivation had ended and they had to part ways. Now, it was time for them to part ways. Yang Dingtian was already very familiar with using the Mystic Flame Lightning to bombard the Sea of Hades and forcefully raise the Sea of Hades to break through to the Great Grandmaster level. Ling Wu floated in the air with unparalleled beauty. "Are you ready?" Yang Dingtian asked. "I'm ready," Ling Wu replied. Yang Dingtian had already brewed enough mystic flame energy. The million spirit demon fire of the primal chaos attribute floated out from his left hand. The demon spirit demon fire of the primal chaos attribute floated out from his right hand. The two mystic flames suddenly floated to the top of Ling Wu's head and gently collided with each other. Immediately, an incomparably huge lightning struck down from the top of Ling Wu's head. In an instant, an incomparably resplendent brilliance exploded. The entire sea surface was as bright as day. After a while, the brilliance dispersed. Ling Wu was safe and sound. Not to mention that her body was injured, even a strand of her hair wasn't burnt. After that, her entire body was completely immersed in the enormous energy. Her Sea of Hades continued to expand, explode, and disappear. In the end, Ling Wu's cultivation directly stopped at the level 5 2-star Great Grandmaster level. She, who was originally unable to break through to the Great Grandmaster level within 3 years, had broken through to the level 5 2-star Great Grandmaster level in less than half a year. In this major cultivation, she should be the one who ranked first in terms of results. Second-grade evil spirits were indeed heaven-defying. "How do you feel?" Yang Dingtian asked. Ling Wu's face was slightly flushed as she said, "Previously, I've suffered the ravages of the second-grade evil spirit's lust. This time, I've directly broken through to the Great Grandmaster level and instantly filled up all the lust of the evil spirit. I feel incomparably satisfied and incomparably happy. In fact, I can't even sense the existence of the evil spirit during this period of time." Yang Dingtian smiled and said, "It might have eaten its fill, so it fell asleep." Ling Wu said, "That might be the case. I hope it can wake up a little later. In the next few years, there won't be any mystic flames. I won't be able to feed it until it's full." Yang Dingtian asked, "Where do you plan to go next?" Ling Wu said, "Big Brother said that he wants to bring me to some secret realms." "That's right. After I go to those secret realms, I'll tell you the cultivation method and the location of the secret realms. You can also organize the experts of the Council of Light to go and train there." Yang Dingtian said, "That's great." Ling Wu said, "After that, Big Brother said that he wants to bring me to the edge of the primal chaos world, those places that almost all humans have never been to before." Yang Dingtian nodded his head. The two of them immediately sunk into silence. Yang Dingtian said, "All right then, go ahead. Brother Netherworld should be impatient from waiting." Ling Wu stood at her original spot, raised her eyes and said with a smile, "Sect Master Yang, aren't you going to try to invite me to stay? Right now, the Council of Light is really short of people." Yang Dingtian said, "Even if I ask you to stay, you won't stay. Moreover, Wu Yuming should need you by her side more." Ling Wu smiled. Then, she muttered to herself, "When you become strong, you'll realize how laughable you were in the past." Sometimes, an inferiority complex can really destroy a person. This sentence was a truth that had been verified countless times. It was the same even in the real world. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, when he failed, all the negative emotions would surge forth. Due to an inferiority complex, it would lead to extreme sensitivity and narrow-mindedness. It would even lead to delusions of persecuting others, extreme self-esteem and so on. Once a person succeeded and became confident, all these negative things would vanish like smoke in thin air. As a matter of fact, even Yang Dingtian couldn't avoid such emotions. When he was expelled from the Yinyang school by Dongfang Bingling and was bullied by Cloud Heaven City, his heart was also filled with negative emotions. If it wasn't for Yang Dingtian using her gentleness and tolerance to protect him during that period of time, at the very least, Yang Dingtian would also be narrow-minded and extreme during that period of time. "Alright, close your eyes for a while," Ling Wu said. This isn't good," Yang Dingtian said. "This is what makes you detestable. Do you know that?" Ling Wu said. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes awkwardly. A fragrance approached. The unique fragrance of Ling Wu's delicate body wafted into his nose. "After I've truly found myself, I'll prove my value to you," Ling Wu said word by word beside Yang Dingtian's ear. Then, her bright red, soft and fragrant lips planted a kiss on Yang Dingtian's cheek. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Then, she quickly drifted away. By the time Yang Dingtian opened his eyes, she had already disappeared from his field of vision. Yang Dingtian was about to lead everyone back to the Zhongjing. As for shadowless and demon spirits, they were about to officially leave the Hall of Heads. It wasn't that Yang Dingtian didn't want to occupy the Hall of Heads, but his current strength was simply not enough. After returning to the Zhongjing, Yang Dingtian first used the mystic fire lightning to help the 7 people in the second half of their cultivation break through to the Grandmaster realm. Then, he completely handed over all the affairs of the Council of Light to the various higher-ups. In the following period of time, he and Dishi Bian had to think of ways to break through to the half-saint realm. And the most direct way was to find the 5th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian had to go to those mysterious and dangerous void borders of this world. That was the place where Ning Wuming and the others hunted demon spirits. There, they would cultivate while searching for the traces of Shiwu Piaoyan. Just when Yang Dingtian was about to set off, the messenger of the Demon Wrath Patriarch from the Shadow Spear clan of the Little Western Paradise appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. "Jia is about to give birth. Her life is in danger. Mr. Jiang Shang, please hurry over." Chapter 799. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Yao Rao had been pregnant for nearly 2 years before she gave birth to Yang Yi. Jia had only been pregnant for about 9 months. Now she was about to give birth, and her life was in danger. What was the reason for this? Could this be a scheme? A scheme to deceive Yang Dingtian into going to the Little Western Paradise. However, Yang Dingtian quickly denied this possibility. Although Yang Dingtian was now a 9-star 9th grade Great Grandmaster, whether it was under Yongxi or Monster's Wrath 2, there were a lot of experts above the Sage-to-Be level. If they really wanted to do something to Yang Dingtian, they didn't need to deceive him. Yang Dingtian asked the emissary, "Why is Jia's life in danger when she gives birth?" The emissary said, "Mr. Jiang Shang will know when he goes." Yang Dingtian wanted to say, "What if I don't go?" However, he still couldn't say such words. Although he and Jia didn't have any feelings before, the child in her belly was Yang Dingtian's after all. Therefore, after a little hesitation, Yang Dingtian decided to go to the Little Western Paradise. After a brief explanation, Yang Dingtian followed Monster's Wrath 2's emissary and went to the Forbidden Continent Sea area. They passed through the Skull Hall and went to the Little Western Paradise. After entering the Little Western Paradise's plain, Yang Dingtian's body quickly changed again. From his human appearance, he changed into the appearance of Jiang Sheng from the Speechless clan. Then, Monster's Wrath emissary's eyes were suddenly filled with infinite shock and admiration. At this time, Yang Dingtian suddenly understood. Perhaps in the emissary's eyes, Mr. Jiang Sheng wasn't a fake, but a real Speechless clan. On the contrary, Yang Dingtian's identity was just a doppelganger of Jiang Sheng from the Speechless clan. His Speechless clan was very powerful. When he entered the Little Western Paradise, he was the Speechless clan. When he entered the human countries, he looked like a human. Unlike the Fox Demon clan, their cultivation had been deteriorating ever since they entered the human world from the Little Western Paradise. After boarding the luxurious flying carriage, Yang Dingtian and the rest flew towards Yindu. After flying for less than 10,000 li, when they passed by the Shadow Spear clan, a beautiful middle-aged woman appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. Her graceful and beautiful face was filled with anxiety. You are Mr. Jiang Sheng, right? The middle-aged woman asked. Yang Dingtian was startled. Then, he saw some shadows of Jia and Yao Rao on this middle-aged woman's face. He knew that she might be his cheap mother-in-law. However, it was very strange. When he was in the Western Paradise, he had never seen her appear. I am Jia's mother. The beautiful middle-aged woman said, I have been cultivating in the temple before, so Mr. Jiang Sheng has not seen me before. Oh, no wonder. Cultivating in the temple was considered a fashion in the Little Western Paradise. More accurately, it was more like a golden gilding of the high nobles' philosophy and aesthetics. It was like a different kind of meditation. It was originally the behavior of the wise and the artists. Later, it was praised by many high nobles and became a very ostentatious behavior. However, no matter how ostentatious it was, this kind of cultivation was very difficult. The time spent cultivating was basically measured in years or decades. Basically, the longer one cultivated in the temple, the more they would be sought after by the high nobles. As for his mother-in-law, it was obvious that she had been cultivating for a long time. Mr. Jiang Sheng, I am very proud that Jia is able to serve you. The cheap mother-in-law said, now, she is about to give birth to your descendant. Her life is in danger. I hope that you can use your supreme wisdom to save her life. Disciple, please accept my request. Then, this cheap mother-in-law actually knelt down. Yang Dingtian quickly assisted her. This cheap mother-in-law in front of him did not seem to know his true identity. She was indeed like the other high nobles, full of admiration and fanaticism for the silent race. Therefore, even though she was his mother-in-law, she did not have the attitude of an elder at all. Instead, she put herself in a very low position and called herself a disciple. This kind of person should be the stupid person that Yao Qi and Jia were talking about. The stupid high nobles of the fox race, completely brainwashed by art, aesthetics, philosophy, and so on. However, Yang Dingtian had a good impression of her. Being simple was better than being cunning. After flying for another 20,000 miles, Yang Dingtian stepped onto the land of Silver City again. At the first moment, he saw Demon Rage 2, who was burning with anxiety. At this time, his cunning and scheming had all disappeared. His face was full of worry and fear. When he saw Yang Dingtian, he immediately grabbed his arm and dragged him into the Silver Palace. His wife trembled uneasily behind him and said, Husband, husband, put him down, put him down. Don't be disrespectful to Mr. Jiang Sheng. Demon Fury too glared at her and immediately pulled Yang Dingtian onto his carriage. Subsequently, they sped towards the Silver Palace at lightning speed. I will only say one thing. If you can't save Jia, you will die in the Silver Palace and be buried with her, Demon Rage 2 said firmly. Yang Dingtian, I'm not confident. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know how to save her. I don't care. Demon Rage 2 said sternly, anyway, if Jia dies, you will die too. If not for you, how could she die? In fact, Yang Dingtian was the one who was forcefully pushed out. However, Yang Dingtian didn't say such words right now. Moreover, when he saw Yao Nu's anxious appearance at this moment, he had a slightly better impression of Yao Nu in his heart. It was only at this moment that this cunning and insidious politician showed some signs of humanity. I will do my best. Yang Dingtian, although I don't know what to do. Soon, Yang Dingtian entered the Silver Palace again. He saw Yong Shiwendian. You're finally here. Yong Shiwendian said, whether it's useful or not, you're not late. Yang Dingtian was about to salute, but Yong Shi waved his hand and said, go in, go in. Demon Rage 2 did not say anything and directly dragged Yang Dingtian to the Red Leaf Palace. As soon as he got close, Yang Dingtian heard an incomparably painful scream. It was Jia's scream. It was hoarse, full of despair and pain. Hearing it, one's heart would tremble. After hearing it, Demon Rage 2's facial muscles twitched. He suddenly pushed Yang Dingtian and said, save her, or you die too. Then, he quickly left. It was as if Jia's every scream was an unparalleled torture to him. Hearing the hoarse scream, Yang Dingtian walked into the Red Palace. Behind him, his cheap mother-in-law also hurried over. But when she was about to overtake Yang Dingtian, she immediately stopped and moved to the side. She bowed and let Yang Dingtian go first. This woman had really been brainwashed to the extreme. Yang Dingtian didn't have the time to lament as he rushed into the bedroom with quick steps. In the incomparably luxurious and comfortable palace, on the soft bed, the naked Jia with a big belly was suffering incomparable pain. Beside the bed, there were more than a dozen maids. At the head of the bed, there were 4 white-haired demon fox elders. They were the best female doctors in the demon fox clan. But facing the situation in front of them, there was nothing they could do. Because all the demon foxes would be at least a few hundred years old by the time they gave birth, and their cultivation would be very high. There would be no difficult labor or dangerous situations. Therefore, the situation Jia was facing now was something they had never seen before. After seeing Jia's miserable state, the cheap mother-in-law finally forgot her fanatical worship of Jiang Shang of the Silent Tribe. She rushed over and grabbed Jia's hand tightly, crying, my baby, what happened to you? Don't scare me, don't scare me. At this moment, Jia's beautiful face was so pale that there was no trace of blood. There were even small cracks at the corners of her eyes, and blood was flowing out of the corners of her mouth. Her pain was completely unbearable. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she was tortured to the limit by the pain. After seeing Yang Dingtian, a ray of hope appeared in her eyes, which were originally in extreme pain. She sobbed and spoke in a trembling voice, husband, save me, it's so painful, so painful. It was the first time she called Yang Dingtian like this. It was the first time she was full of weakness, dependence, and emotions. Yang Dingtian also put aside her previous framing and heartlessness. He went forward and grabbed her hand, asking the female elder, what happened? Madam has been in pain for 9 days and 9 nights, but she just can't give birth, the female elder said weakly. 9 days and 9 nights? Yang Dingtian couldn't help but shudder. If it was a human, he would have already lost his life. Why can't she give birth? Yang Dingtian asked. I don't know. The female elder cried and said, we really don't know. Please forgive us, great sage. Yang Dingtian said, then prepare for a cesarean section. Just open the stomach and take her out. Although there were no anti-inflammatory needles or antibiotics in this plane. But Yang Dingtian knew that with Jia's cultivation, a cesarean section was definitely not a big problem. At most, after the operation, he could just give her a holy water pill. Yang Dingtian did not hesitate at all. He took out his sword and prepared to perform a cesarean section. At this moment, even a minute's delay was dangerous. Because the light of vitality in Jia's beautiful eyes was getting weaker and weaker. No, no. Jia cried and said, "It's the baby doesn't want to come out. Every time I want to give birth, he will desperately struggle in my stomach. If you perform a cesarean section, he will torture me to death." Sure enough, as soon as Yang Dingtian pulled out his sword, Jia's stomach suddenly surged fiercely. The baby inside made a fierce resistance. Ah! Ah! Jia let out an incomparably shrill scream, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. The vitality in her eyes was like a flame, quickly weakening and about to disappear. Yang Dingtian was stunned. It was really the baby who was resisting. The melon was ripe, but he was not willing to come out. Moreover, he could even feel the outside world. When Yang Dingtian pulled out his sword and was about to perform a cesarean section, he actually made the most violent reaction. Yang Dingtian immediately looked at Jia in disbelief. Descendant of a demigod? It was actually so heaven-defying. The baby in her stomach was even more demonic than Yang Yi's baby. Jia immediately looked at Yang Dingtian with a complicated look, and said with a sad smile, perhaps only my death will force him out. Keep the baby and sacrifice Jia. This was actually the most beneficial to Yang Dingtian, but he absolutely did not want to see this situation at this moment, even if Jia and he were more like enemies than lovers. At this moment, his heart instinctively pitied this woman who was in pain during childbirth. He is constantly devouring my energy, constantly devouring. Jia said weakly, before, it was only a slight devouring. When it was about to give birth, he was already madly devouring my energy after the melon was ripe. Yang Dingtian immediately sensed Jia's energy reserve. Sure enough, he clearly felt that Jia's cultivation was rapidly flowing towards the baby in her stomach. Jia was very powerful before, above the half-saint level. But now, her cultivation was not as good as Yang Dingtian's. And the key point was that the baby in her stomach was devouring energy, not for the so-called cultivation, but for the instinct of survival. Because at this moment, he was already out of his mother's womb. He just did not want to come out of his mother's womb. If this went on, Jia would definitely die. Because there was no way to stop the baby in her womb. Let others input energy to maintain the baby's devouring. Yang Dingtian thought that this could keep Jia alive for the time being. Otherwise, at this rate, Jia would die in less than half a day. No. Someone has already done it. The baby only devours my energy. Jia said with a dying breath, he doesn't care about anyone else's energy. Yang Dingtian immediately fell silent. Perhaps the baby was still willing to devour his energy. Because the blood in his body came from him. However, Yang Dingtian was a 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster, and he must break through to the half-saint level in a short time. If he let the baby devour his energy, his cultivation would recede like flowing water, and the consequences would be fatal. Moreover, he had paid such a huge price just to save Jia. This woman was more his enemy than his lover. Therefore, if he was rational, Yang Dingtian must not let the baby of the demigod's descendant devour his energy to maintain its survival in her womb. However, Yang Dingtian was usually irrational. Although Jia was his enemy, and she had framed him before. However, Yang Dingtian couldn't allow her to die in front of him. Furthermore, she was carrying his child in her womb. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian put his hand on Jia's big belly and slowly injected a stream of qi into it. Jia's beautiful eyes suddenly revealed a look of disbelief. She knew very well that Jiang Sheng hated her to the core. She had harmed him more than once or twice. Of course, it was hard to say whether he was Jiang Shang or not. Suddenly, Jia's heart seemed to be hit by some special soft energy. Then, when Yang Dingtian injected his qi, something magical happened. The baby, who was tossing and turning inside, suddenly quieted down. Chapter 800. When Yang Dingtian injected his celestial qi, something magical happened. The baby, who had been tossing and turning inside, suddenly quieted down. Then, the baby began to greedily absorb the energy that Yang Dingtian injected. Jia was suddenly freed from the abyss of suffering. Just when Yang Dingtian bitterly felt that his cultivation began to flow away, the baby inside suddenly stopped. Then, he began to quiet down. Yang Dingtian could even feel that he was pricking up his ears to feel everything outside. Yang Dingtian carefully climbed down and put his ear on Jia's belly. The baby inside gently nudged Jia's belly. Yang Dingtian reached out and gently stroked the baby's head. Then, the baby nudged another spot. Yang Dingtian reached out and stroked that spot again. After that, the baby seemed to enjoy playing the same game as Yang Dingtian and did not crazily absorb Jia's energy anymore. Jia, who was freed from the pain, suddenly felt as if she was in heaven. Looking at Yang Dingtian playing games with the baby through her belly, she burst into tears. That feeling of warmth and happiness almost destroyed everything in an instant. Yang Dingtian seemed to be able to understand the thoughts of the demigod baby in his belly. He felt very safe and comfortable in his mother's belly. He did not have any sense of security in the outside world, so he was unwilling to come out. In fact, in the Earth era, every baby was like that. They did everything they could to stay in their mother's belly and not come out. For this reason, they even resisted, such as making their mother have a fever and so on. However, this was the baby of a demigod descendant, so the resistance was much more intense and almost killed his mother. Of course, he did not know the consequences of this. He just did it instinctively. But now, Yang Dingtian's sudden appearance had allowed him to sense another aura that was connected to his bloodline. He felt another sense of security. It turned out that there was another person in this world who was related to him by blood. Perhaps, leaving his mother's belly and going to a new world was not so bad after all. Yang Dingtian gently stroked the baby in his belly and said softly, "Good baby, come out. Come out and see daddy. Don't torment mommy, okay?" The baby in her belly was still quiet. It didn't even play games with Yang Dingtian. A moment later, Jia's body suddenly twitched as she screamed. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Could it be that the baby was tormenting her and absorbing her energy again? "It's open, it's open!" the Demon Fox clan's female elder exclaimed. Next, Jia cried out in joy. A baby weighing close to 10 kilograms was successfully delivered. The world's second demigod descendant was born in this world. In other words, this child was even purer than Yang Yi Baobao. Yang Dingtian held the baby in his arms and was stunned. It was a baby boy, and he didn't look like a newborn at all. He looked like a 1-month-old baby. What surprised Yang Dingtian the most was that he did not have the characteristics of the Fox clan. Instead, there were a few cute purple scales on his neck and lumbar vertebrae. Like Yang Yi Baobao, his ears were a little pointy and had delicate golden scales. Why was it like this? This demigod baby was completely different from Yang Yi Baobao. "Darling, let me hold you, let me hold you." Jia couldn't wait and said softly. Yang Dingtian was really not used to hearing Jia's soft and tender voice. He quickly handed the baby over. Jia held the baby in her arms. Her beautiful but bloodshot eyes carefully looked at every corner of the baby. Her eyes were filled with incomparable love. She said softly, "Little rascal, you've tormented your mother to death." "Ah." The baby yawned and opened his eyes lazily. He seemed to be looking at Yang Dingtian, but he didn't seem to be looking at him anymore. He seemed to be carefully observing the world. Then, Jia put the baby in front of her chest. The baby opened his little mouth and sucked instinctively, making grunting sounds as he sucked. After eating for a full 15 minutes, the baby was full and fell into a deep sleep. It was really strange. The extremely domineering and demonic baby in the womb was not much different from other babies after being born, except for some physical characteristics. The kind of demonic situation where he communicated with his parents and even spoke directly did not happen. As such, Yang Dingtian heaved a sigh of relief. He really didn't want his child to be too different from the other children. Jia was indeed a female powerhouse of the Fox clan. She was on the verge of death after being tormented by the baby, but she immediately regained her vitality after being born. Her originally pale face also became radiant. Great virtuous master, according to the rules of the Fox clan, after giving birth, the husband has to wash his wife's body with essential oil and carry her to another room, a female Fox clan elder said. Okay, Yang Dingtian said. Then, his mother-in-law brought over warm water and poured natural essential oil into it. My lord, please. The mother-in-law regained her respect for the silent clan. Yang Dingtian used a handkerchief to carefully wipe every inch of Jia's body. Then, he helped her put on a soft nightgown and carried her and the baby to another room. This was a dreamlike room. Everything was blue. Jia had prepared 2 rooms. If it was a girl, it would be a pink room. If it was a boy, it would be a blue room. In this room, it was like being in an ocean. After putting Jia and the baby on the big bed, only Jia and Yang Dingtian were left in the room. For a moment, Yang Dingtian did not know what to do. What should I call you, Your Excellency? Your Excellency? Suddenly, Jia asked in a mocking tone. Yang Dingtian said awkwardly. Jia asked, Chairman Yaoqi also knows? Yes, Yang Dingtian said, Chairman Yongxi, your father, Yaoli clan leader also knows. Jia sighed softly and did not say anything. She gently leaned her soft body into Yang Dingtian's arms and gently rubbed her hair against his chest. Yang Dingtian is better than Jiang Sheng of the Silent Clan. Jia suddenly said, I have always been disgusted by the Silent Clan's lifeless negativity. You humans, on the other hand, are too lively for us. Yang Dingtian did not say anything. Just like this, Jia quietly lay in Yang Dingtian's arms and breathed softly. She did not say anything, but she was laughing at herself in her heart. She thought that she was strong and would never be as vulgar as an ordinary woman. Saying that the closest path to a woman's heart was between her legs was simply ridiculous. She, Jia, could have sex with a man and then turn around to kill that man without any feelings. However, when a man kept on possessing you, when you gave birth to his child, then all the talk about being strong and ruthless would be nonsense. He would naturally become the most important person to you. Especially after having a child, the 3 of them would become a whole. Even 2 unrelated men and women would seem to have the same blood flowing in their veins. There seemed to be no more intimate relationship in the world. Suddenly, Jia raised her head and looked at Yang Dingtian. She said softly, Husband, let's make up. Okay, let's make up, Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Yang Dingtian went to see Yongxi again and talked about what had happened in the human countries during this time. Of course, he did not hide his fear and suspicion of Yongxi, so the conversation was a little awkward. But when facing Demon Wrath 2, he became incomparably natural. Because of the birth of a new baby, a real descendant of a demigod, the alliance between Demon Wrath 2 and Yang Dingtian became closer. Your Excellency, in the following time, my only goal is to break through to the half-saint level, and it would be best if I could do it within half a year, Yang Dingtian said. Half a year. Demon Wrath 2 said, according to you humans, you are now a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster. Do you know how much energy is needed to break through to the half-saint level? Yang Dingtian said, I know. It's far more than the energy needed to break through from a 1-star Great Grandmaster to a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster. No, it's much more. Demon Wrath 2 said, I've read the records of you humans. Those top powerhouses need 45 years to break through to a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster from an Enlightener. And from a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster to a half-saint level, it takes at least 15 years. It can even take 50 years, or even 100 years. I know. Yang Dingtian said, I understand the huge amount of energy needed to break through to the half-saint level. But the key is energy, not time. Then, Yang Dingtian said, Your Excellency Demon Wrath, do you know the savior of mankind in ancient times, Nihility Piaoling? Demon Wrath 2 nodded and said, Of course I know. He can be said to be the greatest powerhouse of mankind. He is almost the only human who is respected by us. Moreover, he has been to our Little Western Paradise, or he discovered the Great Nirvana last time. Little Western Paradise will be a very special place, so he has left footprints on almost every inch of Little Western Paradise. In order to commemorate the places he has been, some caves and mountains are named after him. Yang Dingtian said, Then why haven't I seen any books about Nihility Piao Yen in the Silver Palace's library? Demon Wrath 2 said, I am not the chairman, so I have no right to consult the Silver Palace's library. But I feel that Nihility Piao Yen is almost one of the most important figures in Little Western Paradise. There should be a lot of books about him. Even a few hundred years ago, many chairmen set up special organizations to study Nihility Piao Yen and explore every place he has been. These organizations were completely banned until Chairman Yong Shi, because he wanted to change the direction of the Demon Fox civilization and turn it to art and philosophy. Yang Dingtian understood that all the records and books about the Shuwu Piaoyan had been destroyed or hidden away. They had been completely banned. And the executor was undoubtedly Yong Shi Wentian. Because there were a lot of important secrets that Yong Shi Wentian didn't want people to know. Yang Dingtian said, Then how much does the Patriarch know about Nihility Piaoyan? Demon Wrath 2 shook his head and said, I definitely don't know as much as you, because the chairman values these exclusive secrets very much. And us patriarchs don't care about these distant secrets. Yang Dingtian said, Then, how much does the Demon Wrath know about the Void Border? It is the Void Border with void beasts, night owl beasts, and demon spirits. Demon Wrath 2 said, First of all, let me correct your concept. The Void Border doesn't refer to a certain place. There are many void borders in the entire chaos world, and your human countries also have them. Moreover, void beasts, night owl beasts, and demon spirits are not in the same void border. There is only one overlord in each void border. Every void border is an independent world, but it is connected through a special spatial door. In your world, it is called the void border, but in our world, it is called the dark realm. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Dark realm? Was it the dark realm that Yao Li had cultivated for many years in order to become stronger? The so-called void border, or the dark realm? Demon Wrath 2 said, Actually, it is the intersection of the first world, the second world, and the third world. Some overlapping places have become the void border. You have been to the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm. I believe you also know that the Chaos world has been destroyed many times. So this world is divided into several parts. The first world refers to those worlds that are completely dead. It is called the Dark Continent and has completely collapsed. There is no life, not even energy life can survive. The second world is the world that is about to die. Only pure elemental life and energy life can survive there. The third world is the world that was destroyed in the last Great Nirvana. Most creatures can no longer survive there, but a few extremely powerful creatures can still survive. For example, the ruins of the Naga Empire belong to the third world. The fourth world is the Little Western Paradise. In the last Great Nirvana, the continent of the Little Western Paradise had been torn apart and became fragmented. However, the Chaos world used a special method to protect it and turned it into the Little Western Paradise that is full of scars. Yang Dingtian interrupted at this time, Then, our human countries, including the Dongli grassland, is the fifth world, right? No, your world is not called the fifth world. Demon Wrath 2 said, it is called the surviving world, and it is also called the last world. Yang Dingtian said, because the Little Western Paradise's environment is worse than that of the human countries, so the demon fox race in the Little Western Paradise is also relatively powerful. Demon Wrath 2 said, this is one of the reasons. Of course, there is another reason, and that is that the Little Western Paradise is a surviving world before the Great Nirvana, so its energy level is also 10,000 years ago. And the Xian Qi energy of the human countries is after the Great Nirvana, so it is relatively thin. Yang Dingtian said, then, if you want to break through to the half-saint realm in a short time, there is only one way, and that is to go to the Dark Realm? Yes. Demon Wrath 2 said, not only humans, even our demon fox race, if we want to become stronger, we have to go to the Dark Realm to cultivate. Whether it is to break through to the so-called half-saint or saint level, going to the Dark Realm to cultivate is the only way. Chapter 801. Does that mean that the so-called second world and third world belong to the Dark Realm? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes. Demon Rage 2 said, of course, this definition is very, very broad. The third world is still okay, especially the second world. No one knows how many times it has been destroyed. It is just called the second world. Yang Dingtian asked, then, where is the Dark Realm that the Fox Demon clan usually cultivates in? The third world. Demon Rage 2 said, of course, don't have any hope of entering the ruins of the Naga Empire. For thousands of years, who knows how many fox demons have entered the Dark Realm to cultivate, but they did not even touch the borders of the Naga Empire. Or to put it more bluntly, the so-called Dark Realm that the Demon Fox clan cultivates in is only an area of less than 10,000 miles. Any deeper in would be isolated by the border of the abyss. Anyone who falls in would be completely lost. Yang Dingtian asked, I'm not considered a member of the Fox Demon clan. Can I enter the Dark Realm to cultivate? No. Demon Rage 2 said. Of course, it's not that you are not allowed to go, but because the door to the Dark Realm has not opened, so you can't enter. Yang Dingtian was stunned. The door to the Dark Realm, is it the second door in the Great Hall of Skulls, the colorless door? Yes. Demon Rage 2 said, the time that this door opens is not very regular, but it basically only opens once every 100 years. Unfortunately, this colorless door had just opened nearly a year ago, so it will not open again in a short period of time, unless nearly 100 years later. Yang Dingtian remembered that Yao Li had just come out of the Dark Realm nearly a year ago. It seemed that it was impossible to enter the Dark Realm through the colorless door in the Great Hall of Skulls. Yang Dingtian said, by the way, I remember you said that there are actually many natural abyss borders in the world. That is the junction between several worlds, and it may lead directly to the Dark Realm, right? Yes. Demon Rage 2 said, the colorless door in the Great Hall of Skulls is definitely not the only entrance to the Dark Realm. At the edge of Little Western Paradise and your human world, there are many mysterious abyssal borders that lead to the Umbral Realm. However, these borders and the Dark Realm are separated by an illusory void that no life form can cross. Once one enters, one will be completely lost. Are there any exceptions? Yang Dingtian asked. Monster Rage 2 glanced at Yang Dingtian and said, I heard that the void-rending fire can help you pass through the abyss border's energy field. But it's just hearsay. Instantly, Yang Dingtian's face was filled with disappointment. Even though he was pleasantly surprised in his heart, he still revealed his disappointment at the first moment. This was because he couldn't tell even Demon Fury 2 the secret of obtaining the void-rending flame. And this way, the Dishi Bian would not be able to cross the abyss border. However, this was still good news. The fact that the void fire could cross the border of the abyss meant that Yang Dingtian could go to the Dark Realm, the Third World, and even the ruins of the Naga Empire through other channels. Perhaps this was the reason why the void-rending flame could lead to the ruins of the Naga Empire. It was because the void-rending flame could pass through the border of the abyss, he temporarily put aside the matter of the dark realm. Yang Dingtian thought of another important matter, which was to kill Dongli. Because he had suffered a complete failure in conquering Hai Xian and had his eyes dug out by Yang Dingtian, he must hate him to the core. Perhaps he had already become a mad dog. Once he returned to the human countries, he would definitely take revenge on Yang Dingtian. Moreover, this person would definitely not have a bottom line like Mu Dan. He would definitely make a move on Yang Dingtian. Therefore, Yang Dingtian would do everything possible to kill him. However, just as Yang Dingtian was about to open his mouth and ask Monster Rage 2 to help kill Dongli, he immediately stopped. Because, how did Yang Dingtian know that Dongli was in Little Western Paradise? If he knew, then to a large extent, it meant that he had seen through Yong Shiwentian. Monster Rage 2 was now an ally of Yang Dingtian, but he needed Yong Shiwentian more. Although he did not know that Yong Shi had been possessed, he did not care about this. He only cared about one thing, and that was that Yong Shi would push Jia to become the new chairman 200 years later. Therefore, in Monster Rage 2's heart, Yong Shiwentian was more important than Yang Dingtian. Once Yang Dingtian asked him to kill Dongli, it was very likely that he would report this to Yong Shiwentian. At that time, Yong Shi would know that Yang Dingtian had seen through him. Then, the problem would be big. Therefore, he could not let Yong Shi kill Dongli. Yang Dingtian had to do it himself. If Dongli had not obtained a first-class evil spirit, then Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian should be enough to kill him. But if Dongli had obtained a first-class evil spirit, then, Yang Dingtian changed his words, Your Excellency Monster Rage, you are very fond of Jia, but what about Yao Rao? She is also your daughter, and Yang Yi is also your grandson. Monster Rage 2 twitched slightly and said, What are you trying to say? Yang Dingtian replied, You might not know this, but the evil Dao's Dongli might have successfully obtained the void crack flame and had even nurtured the darkness mystic flame, but he was still unable to make the snake man race go into estrus. Therefore, his lifelong mission failed. I became the only human who could make the Naga tribe and the Fox tribe go into estrus. Therefore, he hates me to the bone. He does not dare to kill me, but he will extend his claws of revenge to my family. Yao Rao and Yang Yi are also your family, so I want to ask for your help. Monster Rage's face revealed a slightly strange expression. Why don't you let Yao Rao and Yang Yi come to Yimdu to accompany Jia and her son? Yang Dingtian said, but, the mother and son are no longer willing. Because everything that happened in the Silver Palace gave them very bad memories. Monster Rage said, Then what do you want to do? Yang Dingtian said, I don't know if he has obtained a first-grade evil spirit. If he has not, then my Council of Light can still kill him. But if he has obtained a first-grade evil spirit, then we will not be able to control him. I hope to get your help to get rid of this Dongli. Monster Rage said, You must know, that means that I am completely hostile to the evil ways. You also know how powerful Wentian of the evil ways is now. Don't you think you have overestimated the strength of our alliance? Or to put it more realistically, your greatest use to me is to help Jia give birth to a demigod descendant, and you have already succeeded. Your value to me is not that great. You only have the identity of a great sage, and since you are not stationed in the Little Western Paradise, this identity is not that useful. Yang Dingtian became silent. This Monster Rage is really cold and heartless. Just a moment ago, he was still amiable, but now he suddenly turned hostile. Yang Dingtian did not mind and said, Then, can I ask your excellency to send a half-sage expert to protect Cloud Heaven City and protect Yao Rao and her son? Monster Rage looked at Yang Dingtian and said, Your excellency, Yao Rao has left home for a few hundred years, and she is already your woman. Then, you can only be responsible for her safety. Moreover, after a fox demon expert enters a human country, their cultivation will drop rapidly. No one will accept such a mission. Yang Dingtian once again felt the coldness of a high-leveled civilization. When there was no conflict of interest, you were good, I was good, and everyone was good. But even if there was a little conflict, it would completely change. Of course, Yang Dingtian also felt a wave of dissatisfaction with himself. In the past, he had always relied on his own strength and would not beg anyone. But he was doing this for his family, so he had no choice but to bend down. Got it, then I will take my leave. Yang Dingtian said. Half an hour later. Monster Rage 2 appeared in Yong Shiwentian's secret room and told Yong Shi what Yang Dingtian had said. When he heard that the Void Fissure fire might be able to pass through the abyss border, his face showed disappointment. Yong Shi asked. Yes, he showed disappointment. Monster Rage 2 said. He asked you to help kill Dongli. Is there a sense of urgency, such as today or tomorrow? Yong Shiwentian asked. No. Monster Rage 2 said. Demon Rage 2 said, based on what he said, he wants me to send an expert above the half-saint level to guard Cloud Sky City and protect his family. You refused? Yong Shiwentian asked. Yes, I refused. Monster Rage 2 said. Alright, I understand. Yong Shiwentian said. Goodbye. Monster Rage 2 said. A moment later, Dongli appeared in front of Yong Shiwentian. After being imprisoned for more than half a year, he had lost a lot of weight, and his face had become thin and pale. After imprisoning you for half a year, have you thought it through? Yong Shiwentian asked. Yes, foster father, Dongli said, Yang Dingtian can't be killed now, nor can he die. Although my mission to conquer the Naga race has failed, I can't give up on myself like Yu Ming. I haven't contributed any value to Deity's Templar and His Majesty Demon King. No, you haven't thought it through. Yong Shiwentian said, if you really think it through, you will be like Yu Ming, confused and unable to find your goal and direction in life. Although you won't kill Yang Dingtian, you will take revenge on his family, his loved ones, right? Dongli's handsome and thin face suddenly twitched. He didn't want to admit it, but he also didn't want to lie. He really thought so. After being imprisoned for more than half a year, he still couldn't extinguish the hatred in his heart. Answer me. Yong Shiwentian said coldly. Yes. Dongli said in a trembling voice, Foster father, I don't understand. Yang Dingtian is the only one who can make the Naga race and Demon Fox race go into heat, so he can't die, I can only accept it. Why can't I touch his family? Why do I have to let him be so comfortable? Yong Shiwentian said, because, there is someone inside who absolutely can't be touched, but you can't tell anyone who can't be touched. So, you can't touch them, understand? Dongli was startled, his mind began to recall Yang Dingtian's wives and children, he wanted to know who exactly can't be touched. Foster father, tell me, who can't be touched? Dongli said. Ha! Yong Shiwentian laughed with anger and disappointment, he waved his hand and said, you can leave. No words can describe Yong Shiwentian's disappointment. Dongli in front of him had been completely blinded by hatred and jealousy, he had unexpectedly become so stupid. The secret he had just told Dongli was a top secret. Dongli's memory of this conversation would soon be washed away, he still had the extravagant hope that Yong Shi would tell him who can't be touched. Such an idiot, could he still complete the mission of the evil ways? Yong Shiwentian had to carefully consider Dongli's future. Half an hour later. Wu Yu entered Yong Shiwentian's secret room and said, the secret you just told Dongli has been violently washed away by the spirit master in his mind. But we got some very, very negative things. What? Yong Shiwentian asked. Hatred, even hatred towards us. Wu Yu said, he even wants to conspire with Snake People Empire's High Xian after breaking through to the Semi-Sage realm, completely banishing Yu Ming and Mu Dan to the Dark World with Void Fire, then forcing Wu Lingzi to submit. Finally, he will completely close the door of the human countries, he wants to dominate the human countries alone, and share the entire Vitality continent with Queen High Xian. He's really deranged. Yongshi Wendian said indifferently, since he wants to daydream like this, then let's fulfill his wish. Does he want to kill Yang Dingtian? Let him have a taste of Yang Dingtian's butcher's knife, he can also have a taste of Yang Dingtian. Then give up on him. Wu Yu asked. Yongshi Wendian fell into silence. In the next day, Yang Dingtian didn't leave Jia and her daughter's side. Because he could only stay here for one day, he wanted to spend as much time as possible with the baby. Of course, he didn't mention bringing Jia's baby back to Cloud Sky City. Although he wanted to do so, he knew that it was completely impossible. That night, Yang Dingtian sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the sleeping baby. Jia suddenly said, "Are you going to sit like this for the whole night?" Yang Dingtian was startled. Previously, when they were like enemies, Yang Dingtian could sleep with Jia with a clear conscience. But now, it became unnatural. "You're about to leave. Are you not even willing to give me a night of tenderness?" Jia said. Yang Dingtian was slightly embarrassed and immediately climbed up. Then, Jia actually reached out to take off Yang Dingtian's clothes. This isn't good, right?" Yang Dingtian said, "You just gave birth to the baby. What's not good? I didn't say what I was going to do." Jia said, "I just want to hug you from a distance." Just like that, Yang Dingtian hugged Jia's plump body and lay down quietly. The women of the demon fox race didn't need to go through confinement. Moreover, women with high cultivation could recover their figure very quickly. Therefore, when Yang Dingtian hugged Jia's waist, he was completely shocked. At this time, she had completely regained her elastic and compact waist. In just one day, her figure had returned to normal, but it was slightly more plump. Our demon fox race is different from humans. Not only has our waist recovered, but our entire body has also recovered. Jia said, the women of the demon fox race with high bloodline also have many intimate relationships with their husbands on the second day after giving birth. Let's not, Yang Dingtian said awkwardly. Chapter 802. After hearing Yang Dingtian's words, Jia couldn't help but roll her eyes in the dark. "You're thinking too much. I've been tormented to death for 10 days and 10 nights. I'm traumatized by that." Yang Dingtian immediately hugged her and gently stroked her belly as if he wanted to heal her wounds. "Are you this gentle to other women as well?" Jia asked. "Ah, yes," Yang Dingtian replied. "Then, among your women, what's my ranking in terms of beauty?" Jia asked. Yang Dingtian felt a headache coming on. "What's the point of comparing this? Tell me, you're not allowed to lie." Jia twisted her body. Yang Dingtian didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to tell the truth. It really gave him a headache. About the same as Dongfang Bingling and Wu Maji. "You should be one of the most beautiful," Yang Dingtian said ambiguously. Anyway, in terms of pure beauty, Naga Shuang was at the top of the pyramid. However, Jia seemed to be satisfied with this answer. Then, she asked in a very unhappy tone, "Oh right, as a man, why do you have so many women? And all of them are outstanding beauties?" Yang Dingtian didn't want to be pretentious, but it was the truth. I really don't want to. In my opinion, 2 is enough." "Why 2?" Jia asked. "Are you so filthy inside? Why not 1? Yang Dingtian replied, "I know it's shameless, but that's what I really think." "You're really a shameless human," Jia said. Then, she turned around and hugged Yang Dingtian's neck. She pouted her fragrant lips and kissed him. The next morning, Demon Rage 2 met Yang Dingtian early. "Alright, you should go. If you're late, Cloud Sky City might be in trouble. Of course, if you want to do something, you have to hurry." "What do you mean?" Yang Dingtian was shocked. Demon Rage 2 said, "That's all I can say. Leave immediately and return to Cloud Sky City." Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. Could it be Dongli? At present, only the mad dog Dongli would hurt his family. Yang Dingtian immediately returned to Jiya's room. The females of the Demon Fox clan did not need to undergo confinement. Hence, Jiya had already woken up. However, the baby was still sleeping soundly on the small bed. This baby, who had once been very heaven-defying, didn't seem to be so heaven-defying after birth. Like other babies, he only ate and slept all day long. He didn't even open his eyes much. What made Yang Dingtian very happy was that he was the same as other babies. He would also pee his pants and poop. This is good, this is good. Yang Dingtian did not want his baby to be different from others. Even if it was the descendant of a demigod, Yang Dingtian still wanted it to live a normal life. Speaking of which, normal human babies were very powerful in their mother's womb. They could do somersaults and walk. However, after birth, they would not be able to do so. At least for more than a month, they would only eat and sleep every day. At this moment, Jiya was sitting in front of a big mirror, dressing up. The females of the Demon Fox clan were really heaven-defying. Almost immediately after giving birth, their figures had completely recovered. The current Jiya, apart from being slightly plump, had a devilish figure. In fact, she was even more devilish than when she was not pregnant. I'm going back, Yang Dingtian said. Jiya turned her delicate body and said. Help me cut off this eyebrow before you go. It's a bit crooked. Alright. Yang Dingtian then stepped forward and used a small pair of scissors to gently cut off the eyebrow that was actually quite perfect. Jiya gently snuggled into Yang Dingtian's arms and said, after you go back, don't forget about us. I won't, Yang Dingtian said. Jiya looked up and Yang Dingtian kissed her red little mouth. Then, he walked to the small bed and kissed the baby's little face, looking at his little face greedily. Another face that was as beautiful as his mother's. Speaking of which, Yang Dingtian was not handsome, but his sons were really very beautiful. Let's go. Yang Dingtian then turned and left. Jiya sat naked in front of the mirror. She gently bit her lips and blinked her big eyes hard, holding back the tears in her eyes. Then, she hugged her beautiful delicate body with both arms. How strong was she in the past? But, Yao Qi, who was her life idol, died, giving her the first heavy blow. Then, the birth of the baby gave her the second heavy blow. Finally, Yang Dingtian came to her rescue from thousands of miles away, giving her the third heavy blow. As a result, a cold, heartless, and strong-hearted woman became soft and gentle. After leaving the Silver Palace, Yang Dingtian used his fastest speed to return to the Hall of Skulls. He used the Demon Spirit Mist Cloak Flash technique, flying mystic skills, and the fastest flying cavalry of the Shadow Spear clan. In less than 20 hours, Yang Dingtian had already returned to the Hall of Skulls. At this time, Dishi Bian was already waiting in the Hall of Skulls according to the agreement. Did anything happen in Cloud Sky City? Yang Dingtian asked, when you were in the Hall of Skulls, did anyone pass by here? Dishi Bian shook his head and said, if something happened in Cloud Sky City, the Demon Vulture would immediately come to the Hall of Skulls to report. That's right, because of the cultivation in the Forbidden Continent's illusion, the Council of Light now had close to 30 powerful demon vultures. Of course, these demon vultures were not as strong as the Demon Vulture King Aja, but most of them had already broken through the 8th level. Therefore, in terms of combat power, they were still much weaker than the Demon Vulture King Aja, and their flying speed was also much slower. However, when each of them flew rapidly, their speed could reach more than 1,500 miles per hour, and some of them were even close to 2,000 miles per hour. Of course, the Demon Vulture King Aja's flying speed was already more than 2,000 miles per hour, which was the best in the entire chaotic world. Once it flew, even a half-saint expert could not catch up. That's good. Yang Dingtian said. Dishi Bian said, in about an hour, the demon spirit will come in, and then we can go out. Okay. Yang Dingtian then immediately sat down cross-legged, took a xian gathering pill, and began to quickly recover his xian qi. An hour later, the green door of the human kingdom in the Hall of Skulls suddenly opened, and then the demon spirit and Shadowless flew in. "Let's go." Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian quickly rushed out. After the demon spirit and Shadowless came in, they quickly woke up in the illusion of the Forbidden Continent. Then, they saw a line of words on the ground: Demon Spirit, Shadowless, immediately enter the Little Western Paradise, don't stay in the Hall of Skulls. Then, follow the original plan. This was left by the sect master, Shadowless said. After reading it, he immediately wiped the words on the ground, and then pointed to the silver door of the Little Western Paradise with the demon spirit. "Don't worry, I can read," the demon spirit said in the demon fox language, and then pulled Shadowless, opened the silver door, and entered the Little Western Paradise. Anyway, the demon spirit somewhat missed the Little Western Paradise. Not long after Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian left the Forbidden Continent, they saw the demon vulture king Aja. The two of them rode on Aja's back. "Aja, land and dive into the sea," Yang Dingtian said. Suddenly, Aja screeched, and then swooped down and dived into the deep sea. Then, a demon vulture and two people lurked in the sea, carefully watching the situation in the sky. 2 hours later, a familiar figure appeared in the sky above the sea. It was Queen Hai Xian's servant, Gue Wuzi, and another unfamiliar figure. Dishi Bian's voice directly passed through the sea and drilled into Yang Dingtian's ears. During this period, the experts of the Snake Men Empire came to the Forbidden Continent sea area at a fixed time every day, and entered the Hall of Skulls every day, but they didn't interfere with us. Dishi Bian said, "They even cooperated with us." Yang Dingtian nodded. Sure enough, Gue Wuzi still stayed at the entrance of the Forbidden Continent sea area, and another unfamiliar figure rushed into the Hall of Skulls directly. About half an hour later, an incomparably familiar figure entered Yang Dingtian's vision. Sure enough, it was Dongli. These two experts of the Snake Men Empire came to the Forbidden Continent sea area every day during this period to pick up Dongli. Gue Wuzi greeted Dongli and said, "Prime Minister, Her Majesty the Queen is waiting for you to go back. She said that no matter what, you are still her Prime Minister." Dongli's thin and handsome face twitched. "Tell the Queen that I will go back, but not now." Gue Wuzi said, "But Her Majesty the Queen asked me to bring you back." Dongli said coldly, "I said that I won't go back now. After I finish my business, I will naturally go back." Gue Wuzi, "I know that you have feelings for the Queen, but don't forget that I am your master. You are a person of my evil ways, and I am your young master." "Yes, young master." Gue Wuzi bowed. "Then, you can go back to the capital of the Snake Men Empire and tell Her Majesty the Queen that although I can't make her go into heat, I will prove my value in another way." Dongli said, "I still have things to do." Gue Wuzi said, "What things? How about I help you complete them?" "I want you to go back, did you hear me?" Dongli looked at Gue Wuzi and said word by word. Dongli has changed his eyes. Although he can gradually see some things, this pair of eyes that don't belong to him are inlaid in his eye sockets. Therefore, although this pair of eyes is very beautiful, after looking at it, there is always a kind of scary feeling. "Yes, young master," Gue Wuzi said and then flew towards the northern Snake Men Empire. Dongli, on the other hand, flew towards Cloud Sky City in the east. He had been suppressing this anger for a very, very long time. He had to vent it out. He will definitely not let Yang Dingtian have an easy time. How can there be such a good thing in the world? What kind of peerless beauty is yours? Queen Hai Xian is the goddess of his dreams, the goal of his life. But now, Yang Dingtian is actually benefiting. Good, you snatched my woman. Then I will also snatch your woman, we are even. Dongli felt the fire in his heart fiercely burning. Every step closer to Cloud Heaven City, the fire in his heart became fiercer. The place Yang Dingtian chose to kill Dongli is Li Shui Villa. Of course, this is for the sake of being conservative. After all, Dongli has been a 9-star 9th-grade great-grandmaster for a long time. In addition, he has obtained the void-splitting fire, so perhaps he is closer to the sage-to-be than Yang Dingtian. He is an unlimited 9-star 9th-grade great-grandmaster. Therefore, if he and Dishi Bian are not a match for Dongli, then Yang Dingtian will use Phantom Spirit Demon Mother. In short, he must succeed this time. After Dongli flew towards Cloud Heaven City, Yang Dingtian immediately rode Demon Eagle King Azu and flew towards the south. Then, he turned a corner and flew in front of Dongli. Because Dongli is riding the Snake Men Empire's winged cavalry, his flying speed is less than 1,000 miles per hour. Demon Eagle King Azu can easily overtake him. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian rode Demon Eagle King Azu and arrived above Li Shui Villa. Then, they made the relevant arrangements here and waited for Dongli's arrival. A few hours later, Dishi Bian nodded at Yang Dingtian, then rode Demon Eagle King and flew towards the west. She is going to lure Dongli here because Li Shui Villa is not the only way for Dongli to go to Cloud Heaven City. Of course, there is a certain risk for Dishi Bian to lure Dongli, but this risk is minimal because Dishi Bian's cultivation is very high and Demon Eagle King Azu's speed is extremely fast. Dongli can't catch up. Dishi Bian rode on Demon Eagle King Azu and flew thousands of miles away. As he expected, he saw Dongli in the air. Then, Dishi Bian exclaimed exaggeratedly, which immediately attracted Dongli's attention. Dongli's eyesight is not good, but he immediately recognized Dishi Bian's voice. This is also Yang Dingtian's woman, and it is completely unforgettable for Dongli. This woman's beauty is not inferior to Wu Maji. And most importantly, it is said that Yang Dingtian has not gotten his hands on this woman yet. Moreover, this woman has an incomparably special and charming taste. Suddenly, Dongli's desire was ignited and he said ferociously, "Good, good, there is a road to heaven but you don't take it. There is no door to hell but you barge in. Yang Dingtian, my revenge on you begins now." Then, Dongli chased frantically. Without waiting for Dishi Bian to speak, Demon Eagle King Azu immediately turned around and flew in the direction of Li Shui Villa. In the blink of an eye, Dongli's winged cavalry was left behind without a trace. Dongli was furious. He immediately abandoned his winged cavalry and used his flying mystic skill to fly quickly and chase quickly. He is also really powerful. Using his flying mystic skill, he actually reached nearly 2,000 miles per hour under crazy flight. However, he is still not Demon Eagle King Azu's opponent, but he will not be completely left behind. In this way, Dongli was directly led into the ambush of Li Shui Villa by Dishi Bian and Demon Eagle King Azu. After entering the sky above Li Shui Villa, suddenly, Demon Eagle King Azu stopped abruptly, and Dishi Bian turned around abruptly and floated in the air. Azu immediately spread his wings and flew high, fleeing far away. In the sky above the Li Water Manor, the incomparably beautiful Dishi Bian was floating on the surface of the lake, looking incomparably beautiful. Even if Dongli's eyesight is weak, he can still see her peerless figure. He stopped abruptly, looked at Dishi Bian's silhouette, and sneered, "You led me here to set me up, to ambush me, didn't you? Who else? Is it Yang Dingtian? With just the two of you, you want to ambush me and kill me? Dream on." Then, he continued to rush towards Dishi Bian and laughed harshly, "Today, I will cripple Yang Dingtian, and then humiliate you over and over again in front of him." Pa! Yang Dingtian's figure suddenly drilled out of the water. At the same time, a devil sky-splitting lightning with all his strength struck down towards Dongli with incomparable ferocity. A huge lightning bolt of several thousand meters appeared almost instantly. The speed was extremely fast, and it directly struck Dongli's head. The thunder attribute mystic skill is so powerful, fast to the extreme, close to the speed of light, no one can dodge it. Moreover, it ignores any defense. The incomparably powerful thunder energy suddenly drilled into Dongli's body. His entire body burst out with terrifying flames. Chapter 803. Almost instantly, Dongli's entire body was charred black, and he let out an incomparably mournful scream. His understanding of Yang Dingtian was completely from nearly a year ago. In addition, when Yang Dingtian was in the Silver Palace, he could almost be said to be powerless. Therefore, he did not take Yang Dingtian seriously at all, nor did he take Dishi Bian seriously. In Dongli's eyes, Yang Dingtian was at most a 9-star grade 8 martial grandmaster, and Dishi Bian was only an 8-star martial grandmaster. With such cultivation, it was completely impossible for them to ambush and kill Dongli. What was Dongli's cultivation level? He had already become a 9-star grade 9 martial grandmaster many years ago. Coupled with the devouring of the space-splitting fire, he was only a thin piece of paper away from becoming a half-sage. Of course, even if they were only separated by a thin piece of paper, the difference in their combat strength was like heaven and earth. However, he felt that with his cultivation level, killing Yang Dingtian and Dongli would not be a problem at all. He could even kill 8 or 10 Yang Dingtian at the same time. However, he did not expect that Yang Dingtian would give him unforgettable pain the moment he came up. This lightning with an incomparably powerful cultivation level suddenly drilled into his Xian meridians. In an instant, his entire body was completely paralyzed. Then, a destructive energy crazily attacked his body. 9-star grade, 9 martial grandmaster energy. He was really too familiar with this level of energy. How could it be? How could it be? Yang Dingtian was actually a 9-star grade 9 martial grandmaster. Could it be that he could fly? How could his cultivation speed be so fast? If it was an attack from any other 9-star grade 9 martial grandmaster, Dongli would not have a problem and could completely resist it. However, this was lightning energy, which could ignore any defense. Although it could not kill him, it could seriously injure him. Just when Dongli felt that all the profound veins in his body were being attacked crazily, the darkness profound flame in his energy reserve suddenly surged out and devoured most of the lightning energy completely. Dongli was stunned for a moment, and then he was instantly overjoyed. The darkness profound flame was actually so heaven-defying. Yes, Dongli's darkness mystic flame was much more fortunate than Yang Dingtian's. Yang Dingtian's darkness mystic flame was extremely weak right from the start. On the other hand, Dongli's darkness profound flame had devoured enough darkness crystals and void-rending flames. It was extremely strong right from the start. Yang Dingtian's black-green mysterious fire was so powerful that it defied the natural order. Unfortunately, it was too strong. Yang Dingtian's Qi-Si could not contain it, so it could only hibernate in the depths of his Qi-Si most of the time. Dongli shook his body lightly, and the charred black on his body immediately dispersed, revealing his naked body. His capital was indeed frighteningly strong, even more powerful than Yang Dingtian's. The moment Dishi Bian saw his body, her whole body trembled. She suddenly fell to the ground and started to vomit desperately. Yang Dingtian was really speechless. Could they still fight like this? Dishi Bian was like this. It would be useless even if he broke through to the sage-to-be in the future. Once the other party took off his clothes, he would vomit desperately. How could they still fight? Ha ha ha. Dongli laughed wildly. Then he turned to Dishi Bian and said, "Miss Dishi Bian, when you taste my power, you will be completely infatuated with me. You won't be able to leave me, and you won't vomit either." Before Dongli finished his words, Dishi Bian vomited even more violently. Dongli then grinned hideously at Yang Dingtian and said, "You're actually a 9-star level 9 great grandmaster. It's really unexpected. But so what? You want to kill me? It's purely a dream. You don't know how big the gap is between a 9-star level a 9 Great Grandmaster and an infinite Great Grandmaster. Is that so? Yang Dingtian saw that Dongli was originally badly struck by lightning, but he was safe and sound in an instant. He didn't know why, but he quickly thought of the dark mystic flame. Dongli also had the dark mystic flame. The dark mystic flame was like a bug in the system. With its existence, Yang Dingtian's mystic skill attack almost had no effect on Dongli. Soon, Dishi Bian stopped vomiting. She took a piece of cloth and covered her eyes. Then she floated beside Yang Dingtian. Dishi Bian, I'll use something to block your cherry mouth in a while. Then you won't vomit anymore. Dongli laughed loudly. Blurg. Dishi Bian suddenly rolled. Yang Dingtian glared at her and then continued to stare at Dongli. Since the devil sky-splitting lightning couldn't kill Dongli, it meant that the mystic flame was also useless. Instead, it would become a meal for the dark mystic flame. Since all of his energy attacks were useless, he could only use physical attacks. At this moment, Dongli slowly raised his sword and faced Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian, now it's time for you to taste the power of an infinite Great Grandmaster. Yang Dingtian had already tasted it. Wu Daozi had released the power of an infinite Great Grandmaster before, but it was only so. It could seriously injure Yang Dingtian, but it couldn't kill Yang Dingtian. Dongli brewed his mystic qi and said with a smile, take a guess. Will this move of mine attack you, or will it attack Dishi Bian, this stunning beauty? Whoosh! Yang Dingtian didn't talk so much nonsense. He directly used the Devil Spirit Mist cloak and instantly flashed, directly appearing in front of Dongli. And the sword in his hand pierced towards Dongli's chest with incomparable ferocity. Puchi, blood spurted out. Dongli was greatly alarmed. He watched as Yang Dingtian suddenly appeared in front of him, and then the sword directly pierced into his chest. In the midst of shock, his mind almost couldn't make any reaction. But his body instinctively reacted and retreated like lightning. At the same time, a sword slashed towards Yang Dingtian. Boom! An incomparably powerful energy directly bombarded Yang Dingtian's chest. Yang Dingtian's chest suddenly shook, and then his entire body flew out, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Dishi Bian quickly came over, caught Yang Dingtian's back, and injected mystic qi to heal him. But he found that Yang Dingtian's injuries were very light. That's right, because Dongli's terrifying energy directly bombarded Yang Dingtian's chest, and Yang Dingtian was wearing the Devil Spirit black armor, which could almost devour most of the energy. The reason why he vomited blood was because other parts of his body were attacked by the aftermath. Dongli quickly retreated tens of thousands of meters away. Because this distance exceeded the limit of Yang Dingtian's instant flash. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the wound on his chest. It was more than 2 inches in, almost piercing his heart. Dongli felt cold sweat on his back. It was too shocking. Yang Dingtian's near-emperor grade soul sword, coupled with the Devil Spirit Mist cloak, was completely a bug. This kind of ghostly flash attack was too shocking. Just a little bit more, and he would have died under Yang Dingtian's sword. He had really underestimated the enemy. Immediately, Dongli looked at Yang Dingtian with eyes filled with hatred and fear. Yang Dingtian, don't think that you can escape my pursuit just because you have the Devil Spirit Mist cloak. Dongli said coldly, I still have a way to kill you. Ah. Separated by tens of thousands of meters, Dongli's sword light suddenly slashed out crazily. Boom, 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 all of a sudden, the sky was filled with Dongli's deadly killing intent. Tens of thousands of meters of sword light, densely packed, filled the surrounding dozens of miles of space, all turned into a slaughterhouse. Dongli slashed madly. Almost every second, dozens of sword auras were unleashed. The scene at this time was very similar to the laser killing array in science fiction movies. You can't see where the sword chi is at all, but every inch of space could be. Puff, 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 suddenly, the entirely water villa was completely destroyed. Without a sound, the entire thatched hut was instantly split open from the middle. The entire boulder was instantly shattered. The entire tree was instantly shattered into pieces. In just a few seconds, the area within tens of thousands of meters suffered unprecedented damage. Countless rocks, countless trees, and all the houses were all shattered. On the ground, a bottomless gully was left. This was the power of an infinite great master. Of course, with such an attack, Dongli's profound chi was completely consumed like a waterfall. This was the stupidest way, but also the most effective way. Almost instantly, Yang Dingtian was in a sorry state. Because at this time, within tens of thousands of meters of space, it was all Dongli's sword light killing intent. And Dishi Bian, as long as she was hit, she would die. Because she had part of the energy of the netherworld ghost fire, she was immortal. But if she was killed, she would still die, so Willingzi cherished his life so much. Therefore, Yang Dingtian didn't care about her vomiting on the man, hurriedly hugged her delicate body, and then used the demon spirit demon fire to release the most powerful energy shield. Whoosh 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 whoosh, using the demon spirit mist cloak flash technique, desperately dodging Dongli's sword light that was everywhere. Boom, but under such a crazy attack, it was too difficult to completely dodge, because Dongli's sword light was completely traceless and invisible, randomly released dozens of times per second. So in a short period of time, Yang Dingtian was hit 4 or 5 times. The energy shield of the demon spirit demon fire was directly torn apart. Although Yang Dingtian resisted most of the energy, Dishi Bian still spat out blood and was seriously injured. Yang Dingtian discovered that in a battle between the top powerhouses, the more helpers, the better. If the difference in cultivation was too great, not only would it not be of help, but it would also drag down the battlefield. Dishi Bian was already strong enough, a 9-star 7th grade great grandmaster. There was not much difference between her and Yang Dingtian, who was a 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster. However, in this battle, under Dongli's crazy killing, she could hardly do anything. Instead, she needed Yang Dingtian's protection. If she really wanted to join the battlefield, she could only help Yang Dingtian if she reached the power of a 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster. This can't go on, Dongli has already gone crazy. Yang Dingtian held Dishi Bian and rushed down to the lake below, diving directly into the deepest part. At this time, the power of water was displayed. Anything that was hit by Dongli's sword light was instantly shattered. Only water, after being shattered 10,000 times, was still water. Yang Dingtian kept diving down. Lishui Lake was very, very deep. After diving for 10,000 meters, he reached the water. This 10,000 meters deep water could almost buffer most of Dongli's attacks. Therefore, Dishi Bian was safe at the bottom of the water. When Dongli saw Yang Dingtian diving into the water, he was furious and wanted to rush into the water. However, he quickly thought that this might be Yang Dingtian's trap. He immediately shouted from above, "Yang Dingtian, come out. Don't be a coward. Also, I know that you have the demon mother of illusory spirits. Don't even think about using the demon mother of illusory spirits to kill me underwater." When these words came out, Yang Dingtian was stunned. The demon mother of illusory spirits was his trump card. He didn't expect Dongli to think of it directly. It seemed that although his reason was blinded by hatred, he was still very scheming. Of course, the matter of the demon mother of illusory spirits was not an absolute secret. At least, Ning Wuming knew about it. Since Ning Wuming knew, as one of the young masters of the evil ways, Dongli also knew about it. In this way, he couldn't use the demon mother of illusory spirits to kill Dongli. He definitely wouldn't go into the water. If he didn't kill him today, it would be really troublesome. Yang Dingtian had completely enraged him. If he let him go, he would really cause a reign of terror in Cloud Heaven City. He would cause immeasurable harm to Yang Dingtian's family. Therefore, he had to keep him here today. Dong Li shouted in the air, Yang Ding Tian. If you don't appear, I'm going to Cloud Heaven City. Dugu Shao might not be guarding there all the time. I'm going to have a taste of Big Milk Shiman now. Ha ha ha. Yang Ding Tian fiercely slashed out profound chi energy from the lake. Suddenly, the entire lake surged with waves. Therefore, Dong Li couldn't see the trajectory of Yang Ding Tian's movement. Yang Ding Tian followed the surging waves and quickly approached Dong Li in the water. Then, before he came out of the water, he used the invisibility profound skill and completely disappeared into the air. Then, Yang Ding Tian became invisible and gradually approached Dong Li. Dong Li's gaze was still fixed on the entire lake. Then, he realized that the waves in the lake were getting smaller and smaller. Suddenly, he thought that Yang Ding Tian knew the invisibility profound skill. Instantly, he broke out in cold sweat. He knew that Yang Ding Tian was approaching him. Yang Ding Tian's near Emperor grade soul sword and demonic spirit mist cloak were too terrifying. Once he got close, it could be said that he would die without a doubt. Suddenly, Dong Li's sword danced crazily. Countless sword auras crazily slashed at the surrounding space, completely protecting his body. Yang Ding Tian wanted to get close to him. Unless he was slashed 10 times, 100 times. And if Yang Ding Tian was slashed 10 times, he would have died long ago. Then, could Yang Ding Tian be invisible and flash at the same time? Yes. In theory, yes. But in reality, to be invisible for tens of thousands of meters, it would exhaust a considerable amount of Yang Ding Tian's profound qi. And to be invisible for tens of thousands of meters, that profound qi would increase exponentially. With Yang Ding Tian's current cultivation, he would not be able to support it. Moreover, there was not much meaning in being invisible and flashing. Yang Ding Tian continued to get closer and closer. The distance was enough. At this distance, Yang Ding Tian could completely flash and stab Dong Li. But, at this moment, Dong Li's sword aura had completely protected him. If he rushed in, Yang Ding Tian would be slashed countless times. With unlimited Grandmaster energy, Yang Ding Tian could take 1, 2, 3, but what would happen if there were more? Yang Ding Tian did not know. Of course, when Yang Ding Tian was about to die, the black-green profound fire would appear and devour all the energy to protect Yang Ding Tian's life. But, at that time, Yang Ding Tian would have lost his ability to fight. Dong Li could easily chop off his head. The black-green profound fire could protect his sea of qi, but it might not be able to protect his head. Therefore, if Yang Ding Tian rushed forward, he might be able to kill Dong Li, but the possibility of losing his life would be very, very high. Moreover, Dong Li had just blocked Yang Ding Tian's first flash attack. Then, he might be able to block the second flash attack. Therefore, the situation was unsolvable. But, there was another way. That was to let Dong Li exhaust all his profound qi. By then, killing him would be as easy as flipping his hand. Therefore, Yang Ding Tian hid himself and waited for Dong Li to exhaust his profound qi. But obviously, Dong Li would not be fooled. When there was only about 30% of his profound qi left, he said coldly, Yang Ding Tian, I know you're waiting for my profound qi to exhaust. I'm not going to play with you anymore. I'm going to Cloud Sky City to play with your wife. After saying that, he retreated quickly. If he let him leave, the consequences would be unimaginable. As he retreated, he waved his sword crazily and surrounded himself with countless sword rays. Yang Ding Tian slowly pulled out his sharp sword and held it horizontally in the air, motionless, allowing Dong Li to retreat crazily. Ha 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 ha. Yang Ding Tian, I'm not going to play with you anymore. I'm going to humiliate your wives, ha 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 ha. Dong Li laughed wildly and retreated like lightning. Suddenly, slash. The sharp sword pierced Dong Li's sea of qi in his lower abdomen. Boom. Dong Li's sea of qi was instantly destroyed. And Yang Ding Tian was still invisible. He did not attack in a flash. Instead, he stood in the same spot and waited for Dongli to collide with his sword. Because he had previously moved behind Dongli while invisible. Chapter 804. As it was too easy to be counterattacked by instinct, Yang Dingtian chose to take a big detour to Dongli's back and stab him in the back. However, the result was even more forceful. Dongli retreated rapidly and collided with Yang Dingtian's soul sword that was close to the emperor grade. At the moment of collision, Yang Dingtian flashed a foot away. Instantly, the soul sword that was close to the emperor grade pierced through Dongli's waist and his sea of vital energy without any hindrance. Dongli's face was distorted. He turned around and looked at Yang Dingtian. You tricked me, then let's perish together. Then, he wanted to explode the entire sea of vital energy before it was completely destroyed. However, he didn't have the chance. Because his darkness mystic flame rushed out crazily. That's right, Dongli's darkness mystic flame actually flew out of the sea of vital energy and screamed, roared, and looked ferocious in the air. When Yang Dingtian saw this, he was completely stunned. The darkness mystic flame actually betrayed its owner at the crucial moment. Any mystic flame would live and die together with its owner. However, the darkness mystic flame actually betrayed its owner and left when its owner was about to die. This was too monstrous, wasn't it? However, the darkness mystic flame that had lost its owner and was alone in the air was extremely dangerous. Its energy would be depleted rapidly. Therefore, it struggled crazily and screamed. Then, it pounced towards Yang Dingtian ferociously. Because Yang Dingtian was the closest to it, it wanted to find a new owner. Huff, Dongli's darkness mystic flame suddenly entered Yang Dingtian's body. Ah! Instantly, Yang Dingtian yelled out. Because an endless amount of dark energy surged into his body crazily. This darkness profound flame had an owner. Now that it had forcefully entered his body, it seemed to devour all energy wherever it passed. This was a completely violent move. Moreover, this darkness profound flame had devoured more than half of the void-splitting flame. Coupled with Dongli's sea of qi, it was an extremely powerful profound flame. Therefore, when it passed through Yang Dingtian's profound veins and was about to drill into his energy sea, it nearly destroyed everything. Yang Dingtian felt his mind go blank, as if his entire body was about to explode. But at the last moment, his sword trembled violently. Poof! Dongli's body flew out. His entire body, from his stomach to between his legs, was split in half by Yang Dingyi's near-emperor grade soul sword. His most solid foundation was completely destroyed by the explosion. Then, his body fell heavily to the ground as blood gushed out. As for that darkness profound flame, it was frantically trying to drill into Yang Dingtian's qi sea. Moreover, in order to make up for its loss, it desperately devoured all the energy it could see. Without any obstruction, this darkness profound flame suddenly entered Yang Dingtian's qi sea. It looked like it was about to completely devour everything in Yang Dingtian's qi sea. But in an instant, the black-green dragon that was hibernating in the abyss of the qi sea was extremely excited and ecstatic. It was like a demon that had found the most delicious prey. Roar! Its entire body suddenly bounced out from the abyss. In an instant, this tyrannical and incomparably powerful darkness profound flame suddenly became incomparably weak in front of it. It immediately panicked and wanted to escape. But it was too late. The black-green dragon opened its terrifying flaming mouth and completely devoured the darkness profound flame in one gulp. It swallowed it into its stomach and then dived into the abyss of the qi sea again. At the same time, an extremely powerful energy exploded in Yang Dingtian's qi sea. Yang Dingtian felt waves of nothingness and tremors. This black-green dragon actually knew how to divide the spoils. After devouring Dongli's darkness profound flame, the bigger part belonged to itself and the smaller part belonged to Yang Dingtian. As a result, Yang Dingtian inexplicably broke through from a 9-star 9th grade Great Grandmaster to the realm of Infinite Great Grandmaster. Of course, the so-called infinite great-grandmaster was a very broad and vague concept. Strictly speaking, it was still called a 9-star 9th-grade great-grandmaster. For example, although Dongli and Yuming were infinite great-grandmasters, they were still called 9-star 9th-grade great-grandmasters. And some infinite great-grandmasters were only a piece of paper away from the sage to be. And some infinite great-grandmasters were very far away from the sage to be. But in short, infinite great-grandmasters were stronger than 9-star 9th-grade great-grandmasters. When Yang Dingtian woke up again, the sun was already setting in the west. He wanted to rush to the ground and tear Dongli into pieces immediately. However, at this time, there was already a person standing beside Dongli. It was Princess Mudan. Yang Dingtian's eyes narrowed. I can't kill him, right? Mudan nodded and said, originally, His Majesty Demon King had completely given up on him and was ready to let him die under your sword and test your strength. But things have changed. Dongli suddenly became important again, so he can't die. Had he become important? Yang Dingtian said, by the way, I've already devoured his darkness profound flame. I know, Mudan said. Oh, that meant that Dongli became important either because of the darkness profound flame or the void-splitting fire. This was Dongli's only support. Then, why did the evil ways suddenly need the void-splitting fire? You want to bestow him with a first-class evil spirit, right? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes, Mudan said. Then, he's going to harm my family again. What should I do? Yang Dingtian asked. Don't worry, he won't. Mudan said, His Majesty Demon King feels that Dongli's soul can no longer be used. His heart is filled with resentment towards the evil ways and violence towards you. So, he will let the first-class evil spirit completely crush his will. From then on, Dongli, as an independent individual, will no longer exist. Just like you? Yang Dingtian asked. No, it's even more serious than me. Mudan said, at least, Dongfang Bingling's soul and will are still intact. He just lost control of his body. Alright, enough chit-chat. It's time to plant the evil spirit. Mudan's eyes narrowed slightly. Her hands suddenly converged in the air, squeezing the air between her palms. Suddenly, a purple-blue light dragon condensed and swam in her hands. It was vivid and ferocious. That purple-blue light and shadow instantly set off Peony's incomparably beautiful face, making it incomparably gorgeous. This was the seed of a first-class evil spirit. Second class was green, and first class was blue. Huff. Then, she suddenly released it. Aoo! With a fierce roar, the purple-blue light dragon suddenly drilled into Dongli's body. After the purple-blue light dragon entered Dongli's body began to tremble. In an instant, an unparalleled energy crazily destroyed Dongli's body. His flesh and blood shattered inch by inch. Then, the entire skeleton completely shattered and disappeared. His entire body, only a chi-si, countless profound veins, a heart, and a brain were left. These parts were all wrapped in first-class evil spirit energy. Countless energy rays were moving quickly. Finally, the first-class evil spirit's light dragon drilled into Dongli's chi-si. In an instant, Dongli's destroyed chi-si was repaired inch by inch. The completely collapsed chi-si's inner world was quickly restored. Boom! In an instant, the lake below seemed to be lifted up. The two suns in the sky were completely shrouded. The world of thousands of miles seemed to have been completely changed, as if the end of the world had come. After everything quieted down, the astonishing light gradually faded. Yang Dingtian saw a completely new Dongli standing beside Mudan. The skin of his whole body was as smooth as jade. The two eyes that did not belong to him were also shining. The whole person no longer felt like a human. Although the body and face were Dongli's, there was no expression, any emotion, or any hatred that belonged to Dongli. In fact, there was no expression at all, no joy or sorrow. and a certain part of his body was completely empty. A first-class evil spirit had actually failed to restore his manhood. Yang Dingtian asked, did he break through to the half-sage level? No. It was the evil spirit Dongli who spoke. Before he died, the dark profound flame betrayed him and fled. It took away too much of his power, which you devoured. That's why even a first-class evil spirit couldn't help him break through to the half-sage level. He's still an unbounded grandmaster. So you're saying our cultivation bases are about the same? Yang Dingtian asked. No, I'm still a bit stronger than you, Dongli said. I'm closer to the half-sage level, but I can't kill you now. Mu Dan looked at Yang Dingtian and said, well then, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, we'll take our leave. Dongli nodded and bowed. Farewell. Until we meet again, Yang Dingtian said. With that, Mu Dan and Dongli vanished into thin air. Yang Dingtian quickly dived into the depths of the lake because Dishi Bian was already severely injured. Even though Yang Dingtian had given her elixir to consume, it should still be very dangerous for her to be underwater for such a long time. If something happened to her, Yang Dingtian would have lost one of his most powerful allies. That said, she was sometimes unreliable, often throwing up and crippling her own fighting prowess. By the time Yang Dingtian reached the bottom of the lake, he was completely stunned. Not only was Dishi Bian not in any danger, she was completely healed. Yang Dingtian hadn't given her any holy water or medicinal pills, yet she was completely healed. Furthermore, the netherworld ghost flame didn't have the self-healing abilities of evil spirits. Before long, Yang Dingtian discovered the reason. It was because of the blue water at the bottom of the lake. This miraculous blue water allowed him to recover from his injuries. At that time, it was this pool of blue water that allowed the illusory spirit demon mother to escape the calamity of the Naga Empire and also escape the destruction of the ancient Great Nirvana. This blue water was extremely powerful and mysterious. Just what was it? Yang Dingtian picked up Dishi Bian who was in the water. She opened her eyes and slowly woke up. She gently struggled free and floated in the water. You're done. We'll leave in a while. I'll study this mysterious blue water. Yang Dingtian said. As for Dishi Bian, she just stared straight at Yang Dingtian. What are you doing? Yang Dingtian was stunned. Chapter 805. Yang Dingtian, I don't think I should go, Dishi Bian suddenly said. Why? Yang Dingtian was surprised. Dishi Bian said, I feel that if I go, I won't be able to help you. Instead, I'll be a burden. Yang Dingtian said, but your breakthrough to half-saint is also very important. Then I'll use my own method to cultivate. Also, I think it's impossible for me to break through to half-saint in a short time. Dishi Bian said, I've thought about it. At the border of the abyss, you can barely protect yourself. But if you have to divert your attention to protect me, you'll definitely be in danger. Did Emoji say something to you? Yang Dingtian asked. Dishi Bian said, that's not important. What's important is that I've already decided. It's more advantageous for you to go alone. Are you sure? Yang Dingtian asked. I'm sure, Dishi Bian said, I'll stay behind and protect the people in Cloud Sky City while cultivating. Yang Dingtian sighed deeply and then nodded. Then, he flew directly in the direction of the north. The so-called border of the abyss was at the end of the world. North, south, east, and west all had ends. And the end of the South Sea had been explored by evil ways. Yang Dingtian still had many choices, but there was only one choice in his mind. That was the north of the snowy north. Why did he choose there? Because Master Dongfang Nimi, in order to find the ultimate secret of the world, kept going north, 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 north. Then, someone was afraid that he would discover something, so they destroyed his cultivation and imprisoned him in the ice and snow for more than 10 years. Why was his master imprisoned? He must have almost discovered something. Who imprisoned him? Evil ways or the so-called god of chaos? No matter who it was, there must be a secret at the end of the snowy north. Therefore, Yang Dingtian didn't choose the border of the abyss that he knew, but went directly north. Yang Dingtian had the thought of returning to the world of ice and snow for a very long time. At that time, when his master, Dongfang Minmi, was imprisoned, his cultivation should have been around the 9-star Grandmaster level. Because at that time, in the human countries, except for Wolingzi, who had completely retreated from the world, his cultivation was the highest. Therefore, he was called the number 1 in the world. As for whether he had reached 9-star or 9th grade Grandmaster level, Yang Dingtian didn't know, his master had never mentioned it. But at that time, his master had already cultivated to cultivate to cultivate to cultivate. But he didn't cultivate to 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 cultivate ts. But he because master once knew that the profound vein essence was in the yin-yang mirror, but it had already been taken away by peony. And all these years, he had been extremely busy, so he had no time to look for the Xian vein essence, nor did he have time to cultivate his sword soul. At this time, Yang Dingtian's cultivation should be about the same as Dongfang Minmi when he had a sword soul at his peak, or maybe a little stronger. At that time, his master went to explore the top secret in the north, was crippled of his martial arts, and then imprisoned in the snowy north. What about Yang Dingtian? Would he repeat the same mistake? Yang Dingtian rode the demon eagle king, Zhao, and kept going north, north, north. In just 10 hours, he had already reached the edge of the snowy north. Yang Dingtian patted Zhao and said, "Okay, Zhao, you go back. Remember, don't play with Bao Bao in Cloud Sky City every day, you have to go to Zhongjing often to perform official duties, okay? Also, many demon eagles have cultivated in the Forbidden Continent's illusion, and many female demon eagles have become very powerful, barely worthy of you. When I come back, if you haven't found a partner, then I will castrate you. Anyway, it's useless to keep you." The demon eagle king, Zhao, was really sad and reluctant, but when it heard Yang Dingtian's last words, it suddenly shuddered, and its whole body suddenly shrank. Castrate, that's too scary. Otherwise, it might as well just close its eyes and find a female to make do with. Anyway, at night, when the eyes are closed and the lights are turned off, all females are about the same. Alright, let's go back. Yang Dingtian rubbed its neck. Zhao rubbed against his body reluctantly, then flapped its wings and flew in the direction of Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian just told it not to go back to Cloud Sky City to play with Bao Bao, but it turned around and went to Cloud Sky City instead of Zhongjing. After Zhao left, Yang Dingtian landed in the snowy north. In front of him was the endless snowy north, and behind him was the cold belt forest. At that time, when Yang Dingtian left the snowy north, he almost collapsed. It was when he saw this forest that his will was rekindled. The world of ice and snow in front of them was still a vast expanse of white as far as the eye could see. It was as if nothing had changed in 10,000 years. Yang Dingtian did not fly in the air, but walked on the ground. And his first goal was the glacier cave that he had passed through at that time. He walked faster and faster, faster and faster. In the end, it was as fast as lightning. At this time, the sun was shining brightly in the sky. The sun shone on the ice and snow, looking incomparably dazzling. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian ran more than 2,000 miles. Suddenly, dark clouds pressed down, the wind whistled, and fist-sized snowflakes smashed down. Nearly 6 years ago, Yang Dingtian had to dig a deep cave to hide in when encountering such a snowstorm. But now, this snowstorm was not even a tickle for Yang Dingtian. He hurried through the snowstorm. Another 10 hours passed. The sky cleared up again, and the sun shone again. After another 10 hours of walking, Yi Zichen walked on. Finally, Yang Dingtian returned to the place where he came to this world. Of course, this was only a very, very approximate location. The reason why Yang Dingtian did not fly but walked was that he followed the route from 6 years ago. Of course, Yang Dingtian wasn't able to walk in a straight line at that time. Furthermore, this place was filled with endless ice and snow. There weren't any points of reference or any distinctive features. Therefore, Yang Dingtian could only roughly determine that he was in this area. The range was about 100 miles, or perhaps the error was greater. Yang Dingtian flew in the air, trying to find the cave after passing through. But it was too difficult. After 6 years of snow and ice, all traces had been buried by the strong wind. However, there might still be some traces. Because his master, Dongfang Minmi, detonated his energy reserve and blew up a large cave thousands of meters below. Although this cave would be buried by snow, it was not a glacier after all, so it was not that strong. On the jade stone, Yang Dingtian pulled out his emperor-grade soul sword and stabbed it into the ice and snow. The boundless energy of a martial grandmaster suddenly burst forth. Boom! Suddenly, the glacier within a radius of dozens of miles seemed to have been hit by an earthquake. It shook violently, and then countless cracks appeared. However, there was no collapse. It could be seen that it was not here. Yang Dingtian flew dozens of miles and stabbed the emperor-grade soul sword again, bursting with profound qi. Suddenly, all the ice ships within dozens of miles were once again hit by an incomparably powerful shock. Still nothing. A total of 5 times. When Yang Dingtian detonated the ice ship, countless cracks tore open, and then rumbled, a huge cave collapsed more than 10 miles to the west. Yang Dingtian immediately flew over. That's right, it was here. Because, at a glance, Yang Dingtian saw a rag. He didn't know if it was Yang Dingtian's or his master, Dongfang Minmi. At that time, the cave where his master was imprisoned was here. And the place where Yang Dingtian transmigrated was also here. Yang Dingtian jumped into the depths of the cave. Boom, 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 using the terrifying high temperature of the million-spirit demon fire, the snow inside was completely evaporated in an instant. Immediately, this place was completely restored to its original appearance. It was almost exactly the same as when Yang Dingtian transmigrated. His master, Dongfang Minmi, detonated his sea of qi, but did not destroy the shape of this cave. This was impossible, right? Or it had once again returned to its original appearance. Yang Dingtian tried to find his master's skeleton and then take it away. However, it was obviously impossible. At that time, his master was completely smashed into pieces, and there was no trace of him. The only thing that could be found was a lot of torn clothes and a dozen strands of hair. Yang Dingtian collected these things and put them into the space ring. Then, he carefully explored this cave to see if there were any energy fluctuations. No, it was a very normal ice cave. Yang Dingtian directly used his treasure sword to dig down, easily breaking the ice, and continued to dig deeper. 100 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters. It was all ice, and there was nothing special. After taking one last look at the ice cave that he had transmigrated from, Yang Dingtian suddenly flew out, quickly flying towards the north. After that, he continued to use flying mystic skills, and not running on land. He flew towards the north, and kept flying, and kept flying. He continued to fly for 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles, still, it was a boundless land of ice and snow, and there was nothing else. It was as if it was endless. Yang Dingtian had been flying for a few days and nights. Midway, he stopped twice to recover his mystic qi. Because the further north he went, the lower the temperature, and it was actually the same temperature as the unfreezing water. And here, it was completely no longer snowing, and there was no wind. Yang Dingtian could no longer fly, and could only land. Because the temperature here had already dropped below the unfreezing water. The air here was even liquid. Liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, and so on. At this time, Yang Dingtian had no choice but to use a large amount of mystic qi to maintain the temperature in his body. And he could only maintain the speed of running. This wasn't even a big deal. As he continued to go north, the temperature was still dropping. Thus, Yang Dingtian saw an unprecedented spectacle. He saw the entire solid world. The air in the air had completely solidified. At this time, it should already be more than 200 degrees below zero. A normal 9-star 9th grade Great Grandmaster would not be able to withstand it. Yang Dingtian had mystic fire, 9 Yang mystic veins, and unlimited cultivation of a Great Grandmaster. Only then could he barely survive in such an extreme environment. Thus, Yang Dingtian held a treasure sword and continued to break the ice, forward and forward. Every 800 miles, he had to stop to recover his mystic qi. But there was good news. The mystic qi energy here was actually very, very rich. It was as if the mystic qi accumulated over the years had been frozen into the air. Just like that, Yang Dingtian continued to go north and break the ice. The temperature was getting lower and lower. In the end, Yang Dingtian had to consume a large amount of mystic qi to maintain the temperature of his entire body. Moreover, the consumption of elixirs was like running water. The speed of his advance went from 800 miles per day to 500 miles, to 300 miles, to 200 miles, to 100 miles. Just like that, Yang Dingtian continued to move forward. The temperature continued to drop. In the end, the terrible cold even directly froze Yang Dingtian's thoughts. It made him completely forget about the time and could only break the ice and go north. Until suddenly one day, his energy sea suddenly trembled, and his entire body sank into nothingness for a short period of time. Then, Queen Poisa desperately woke him up. Otherwise, he would have really died in the extreme cold. He actually broke through and went from an unlimited Great Grandmaster to an even higher level. Just like that, he kept breaking the ice and going north. After the breakthrough, Yang Dingtian was slightly excited and continued to break the ice and go north. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, he didn't know how long it had been. Later, the temperature had reached a level that Yang Dingtian couldn't bear. His daily speed was no more than 5 miles. The mystic qi in his body was barely enough to maintain his own life. If he still couldn't find the exit, Yang Dingtian only had 2 ways. The first way was to turn back and give up on this direction. The second way was to wake up Naga Shuang and keep warm with her as they continued to go north. Yang Dingtian continued to go north, 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 north. Halfway through, his energy sea cultivation broke through 2 more times. He still went from an unlimited Great Grandmaster to an even higher level. However, only God knew how many times he had to break through to become a half-saint. But now, Yang Dingtian really understood what an unlimited Great Grandmaster meant. Although they were both 9-star and 9th grade Great Grandmasters, the current Yang Dingtian was much more powerful than the previous Yang Dingtian. Perhaps Wu Yuming had been in this kind of limitless martial grandmaster back then. Yang Dingtian's critical point soon came. Because his mystic qi was already difficult to maintain his life and could no longer support him to go forward. If he went forward, he would directly put his life in danger. Now, he could either turn back or wake up Naga Shuang. However, Yang Dingtian didn't want to choose either. Because he felt that there might be a pair of eyes watching him. If he woke up Naga Shuang, his biggest secret would be exposed and it would lead to unimaginable consequences. However, he was extremely unwilling to turn around and go back. He was going to risk his life and risk it all. Therefore, Yang Dingtian gritted his teeth. He directly summoned the mystic fire and used the terrible heat to maintain his body's warmth and continued to break the ice. This time, his speed was very, very fast. However, the consumption of mystic qi was also extremely fast. He was really gambling with his life. Yang Dingtian flew north and advanced quickly. The mystic chi energy was being consumed crazily. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Finally, his mystic chi was about to be exhausted and the mystic fire was about to be extinguished. There was still no end in front of him. If he were to be trapped here, he would definitely die. It was impossible for him to even turn around and go back now. His mystic chi couldn't support him. Then, the only way was to wake up Naga. No, Yang Dingtian didn't want to. He firmly believed that there must be a pair of eyes watching him at this time. Either he died or he succeeded. Yang Dingtian used the last bit of mystic chi and rushed forward. Boom! After the mystic chi exploded, it was completely extinguished. Yang Dingtian's mystic chi was completely exhausted. Then, like a wild beast that had broken free from its cage, he roared desperately. He succeeded. This was the end of the northern world, the real end. Behind it was the ancient wonder, the entire world that was completely frozen and solidified. And in front of it was the bizarre and mysterious abyss border. There was nothing. There was only a ball of light and shadow, a distorted light and shadow. It was like an infinite galaxy, but also like a distorted hell. Countless lightning bolts burst out in the light and shadow. This was the abyss border, the end of the entire world. Anyone who fell into the abyss border would be completely lost in the endless energy abyss. Yang Dingtian knew that no one could pass through the abyss border. And the void-splitting fire was the product of the entire continent after it died. The void-splitting fire was, to a large extent, an alternative manifestation of the abyss border. Therefore, with the void-splitting fire, he should be able to pass through the abyss border. Then, how should he pass through? Chapter 806. The abyss border in front of him could be said to be endless. Moreover, there was an extremely complicated energy field inside. Yang Dingtian grabbed a piece of ice and threw it directly toward the abyss border. Instantly, the ice and snow disappeared. This kind of disappearance did not mean that it went anywhere, but that it was directly turned into ashes. In fact, one level higher than that would be completely turned into the most primitive form of energy. In other words, after a person went down, he would not even be considered dead. He would be directly decomposed into nothingness, leaving nothing behind. Moreover, anything that went down would be completely decomposed. At this time, Yang Dingtian really did not dare to take the risk and directly jump down. Although at the critical moment, he would definitely not be afraid. But at this time, jumping down was not courage, but idiocy. This was the border between two worlds, where there was the most powerful energy. If he jumped down, he would definitely be turned into ashes. He would not even have the treatment of death. Yang Dingtian gradually calmed down and sat down cross-legged. Strangely, it was no longer cold here, but there was no feeling at all. It was not cold, nor was it hot. Yang Dingtian swallowed the qi-gathering pill and began to recover his battle qi. Half an hour later, Yang Dingtian was completely recovered. Since the void-splitting fire was the highest product of the abyss border, then the next step was to see how the void-splitting fire performed. Yang Dingtian ran his qi and released the void-splitting fire. Of course, he did not directly create a space door, but just used a small void-splitting fire to enter the abyss border to try. A white void-splitting fire was slowly released, and then under Yang Dingtian's control, it floated into the abyss border. As expected, the void-splitting fire did not turn into ashes. Not only did it not turn into ashes, but it was also crazily devouring the energy of the entire abyss border. After devouring, the void-splitting fire began to split. A white flame split into a black one. Then it continued to devour and split. 1 flower, 2 flowers, 4 flowers, 8 flowers, 16 flowers. In the blink of an eye, the entire abyss border in front of Yang Dingtian was completely filled with black and white flames. There were thousands of them. Then, exactly like what he saw before, these void-splitting fires began to merge. All of the flames became transparent again. Jade. The entire border of the abyss had turned into a transparent crystal. It looked incomparably beautiful and resplendent. But what should he do now? Was he going to jump down? Yang Dingtian was still very careful as he pinched an ice ball and threw it down. This time, the ice and snow did not disintegrate. Instead, it continued to fall, and finally disappeared. Yang Dingtian understood that the other use of the void crack fire was to allow people to travel back and forth between the first world, the second world, and the third world. They could pass through any abyss border. Moreover, Yang Dingtian's void-rending flame came from the most powerful death continent, so it was of the highest grade. As long as the void-rending flame reached the edge of the abyss, it would devour all the energy here. Then, it would transform the incomparably terrifying edge of the abyss into nothingness. This way, any object that entered would not be directly decomposed. From the looks of it, the spatial rending flame was indeed extremely heaven-defying. It was even to the extent that it was completely different from the profound flames and even the nether ghost flames. This was a truly world-class energy product. Then what about the chaos spirit flame that was ranked first? He really did not know. Its degree of heaven-defying might have already exceeded the scope of Yang Dingtian's understanding. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and directly jumped down toward the transparent crystal-like edge of the abyss. Phew, as expected, he was safe and sound. The entire process was very strange. It was as if he had fallen into a time tunnel. Everything around him was transparent crystal-like light and shadow. There was nothing. Yang Dingtian felt as though he was constantly falling, but he also felt as though he was constantly advancing. Because the surroundings were completely nothingness, there was no front, back, left, or right at all. In short, Yang Dingtian kept falling and falling. Yang Dingtian did not wear a watch. If he did, he would realize that the hands of the watch would not move at this time. Because there was no concept of time when traveling through the abyss border. It seemed to be an instant, but also seemed to be a very, very long time. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian directly passed through the entire almost infinite border and rushed into a completely unfamiliar world. This was a completely unfamiliar world. Phew. Then, this crystal-like void-splitting fire began to condense quickly. In the end, it became void-splitting fire again, and it was transparent. It directly drilled into Yang Dingtian's qi. In an instant. Boom. Yang Dingtian only felt his qi tremble violently. His entire consciousness completely fell into nothingness. His sea of energy trembled once again, indicating that he had made another breakthrough. He broke through from an infinite great master to an even higher infinite great master. At this time, Yang Dingtian's concept of martial arts and the concept of breaking through was completely subverted. In such a short period of time, he had already broken through 3 times. But he was still an infinite great master. As for how many more breakthroughs he needed to break through to the half-saint level, only God knew. Now, Yang Dingtian was really curious. How did Walingzi break through to the half-saint level? It was not scientific. Now, with the objective conditions of the chaotic world, it was very difficult to break through to the half-saint level. No wonder it was called an infinite great master. If one did not come to nirvana, it was basically an infinite great master, and it would continue to be an infinite great master. When he opened his eyes again, Yang Dingtian had the opportunity to see this new world. Was this the second world or the third world? He did not know. In short, this was a world that was gradually dying. Perhaps it was the third world because it was bordered by the human countries. Then, according to reason, the ruins of the Naga Empire and the ancient martial arts civilization should be in this world. Yang Dingtian carefully explored this world. This kind of exploration was very difficult. Because it was practically pitch black, even with Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he was only able to see a range of less than a dozen meters. At least what he saw now was a pile of stones, and they were black stones. Of course, there was no air in the air, let alone oxygen. Moreover, there was no xian qi, not even a little bit of xian qi energy. In other words, it was impossible to absorb xian qi here. Then, if he wanted to go deep into this world, he could only rely on elixirs, an almost endless supply of elixirs. And Yang Dingtian had brought an almost endless supply of elixirs. Now, he was the supreme leader of the humans. Even if it was the highest grade of elixirs, he could have an inexhaustible supply. Yang Dingtian held a spiritual energy elixir in his mouth, and then slowly went deep into this world. After walking for a few hundred meters, he did not find anything. There were no mountains, no houses, only endless stones, and not even soil. Then, Yang Dingtian noticed that the gravitational field here was slightly different. Although the gravitational field was not high, it was definitely different from the human countries. Moreover, there was no life, no plants, and no water. As for the sky, it was completely dark, and there was not even a little extra color. Yang Dingtian understood why this place was called the Dark Realm. Because it only had one color, and that was eternal black. If the third world was already so dark, then the second world and the first world would undoubtedly be even darker. Yang Dingtian tried flying mystic techniques. No, he could not fly. Because there was no air in this world. Of course, Yang Dingtian could still fly if he wanted to. He could directly spit out xian fire, and in a completely vacuum environment, the flying speed would be incomparably shocking. But, in that case, the consumption of xian qi would also be incomparably shocking. In this completely unfamiliar world, Yang Dingtian felt that it was safer to explore carefully and preserve xian qi. Just like this, Yang Dingtian went deeper, 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 stone, 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 black stone. There was almost only one thing in this world, and that was stone, and it was completely black. But, according to Demon Fury II, the Dark Realm was a place that high-level martial artists in Little Western Paradise had to go to cultivate, and it was the only place to break through the half-saint and saint level. But in front of him, how did it look like a place to cultivate? There was no xian qi, no demon beasts, no life. Yang Dingtian went on and on like this. Just when he thought that he was going to go on endlessly like this. Suddenly, the sky lit up, and then the sun rose. Yang Dingtian was stunned. So there was a sun. There was actually a sun in the Dark Realm, and it was not completely dark. It was really strange. After the sun rose, the whole world was bright. At this time, Yang Dingtian saw clearly that this was an almost solidified world, and there were endless stones everywhere. When it was black. Under the illumination of the sun, these black stones also reflected a dazzling light. Although it was a little dazzling, it was better than at night. But within a few hundred miles, there was really no mountain, no life, not even a little protruding thing. Immediately, Yang Dingtian felt that something was wrong. Because it was getting brighter and brighter, brighter and brighter. In the end, he was almost completely blind. Because, later on, the light had exceeded the normal sun by 10 times, 100 times, and even more. As a result, nothing could be seen in this world except for the bright light. Even, compared to the darkness, he could not see anything. It was really a kind of irony, when the light reached the extreme, it was even more blinding than the darkness. Yang Dingtian did not dare to open his eyes, and even close them directly. He could not bear it anymore, and still had to wear a thick eye mask. However, the bad situation was not over yet. Because the surrounding temperature was getting higher and higher, higher and higher, and higher and higher. It was so high that Yang Dingtian could not bear it at all. 100 degrees, 200 degrees, 300 degrees, 400 degrees, 500 degrees. In the end, the rock under Yang Dingtian's feet became sticky and melted. Thus, the whole world became a boiling quagmire. It had not reached the point of magma, but these stones had already begun to melt. No wonder, this world could not see anything, not even soil. Because everything was melted by the sun. Why was the sun here so terrifyingly hot? Of course, without the atmosphere, if the sun shone directly, the temperature would undoubtedly be very high. But on Earth, even if there was no atmosphere, the temperature would not rise to nearly 1,000 degrees. For such a bad situation, Yang Dingtian was prepared. He was wearing the demon spirit black armor, the demon spirit mist cloak, and the shoes on his feet were specially made of special energy nephrite, with heavenly devil silk inside. This kind of energy nephrite could temporarily withstand the high temperature of nearly 1,000 degrees. However, Yang Dingtian's body had already completely relied on releasing ice profound qi to lower the temperature and maintain his life. This place was a little similar to the second world of the Forbidden Continent's illusion, but not very similar. And the most fundamental difference was that this place was completely real. Therefore, when the sun was shining wildly, Yang Dingtian did nothing. Because there was no anti-gravity here, and no one forced him to pass. Yang Dingtian stood in place, using profound qi to resist the scorching heat. Just like that, after the sun shone for more than 10 hours, it fell. The whole world was completely dark. The temperature dropped sharply. Soon, the melted stone slurry began to solidify into stone. The temperature kept falling. In the end, it stopped at about -80 degrees. This temperature might be unbearable for others, but for Yang Dingtian, it was nothing. He quickly sat down cross-legged, took a profound qi gathering pill, and began to recover his profound qi. Yang Dingtian finally understood that this world traveled at night and rested during the day. Half an hour later, Yang Dingtian recovered his battle profound qi. Then, he held another spiritual qi pill and continued on his way. Here, it was a flat land without any obstacles, and there were no life forms, so there was almost no danger. Yang Dingtian continued to travel. However, many times, what he thought was the truth might not be the truth. Suddenly, dozens of miles ahead, something slowly crawled out of the ground. Its entire body was completely black, so its shape could not be seen clearly. The only thing that could be seen was a pair of blood-red eyes. It was about less than a meter tall, and after crawling out, it began to move aimlessly. Whoosh 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 whoosh, it moved very quickly, but not as fast as the demon spirit. This was the life form of the Dark Realm. This was the first life form that Yang Dingtian had seen. Sure enough, it was not a normal life form, but an energy life form, an elemental life form. Suddenly, this elemental life form discovered the existence of Yang Dingtian, and then rushed over like lightning. The distance of dozens of miles was covered in the blink of an eye. Then, it opened its mouth wide and pounced over. Yang Dingtian had almost no time to react, and directly blasted out a bolt of devil sky-splitting lightning. Bang! Instantly, this elemental life form was shattered into pieces. It was probably at the level of a beginner great grandmaster. After this elemental life form turned into ashes, it suddenly condensed into a bright green light in the air, and then quickly dissipated. In the process of dissipating, Yang Dingtian felt an incomparably rich energy. Yang Dingtian immediately grabbed it. This was actually an extremely rich energy, and it was actually energy that could be directly devoured. Yang Dingtian tried to open the entrance of his profound vein to devour this energy. Without any hindrance, it all poured into Yang Dingtian's profound vein and finally into his qi sea. Although it was not pure profound qi energy. But it seemed that this energy level was higher. Profound qi energy had to be picked and refined continuously. And the energy condensed after this elemental life form died was directly devoured, and there was no loss. This was too awesome, too heaven-defying. In the human countries, there was no such energy body. Now, Yang Dingtian finally understood how to cultivate in the Dark Realm. It was completely killing elemental life forms and then directly devouring their energy. No wonder this was the only way to break through to the half-saint realm. If he continued to devour like this, as long as there were enough elemental life forms, he could really devour and upgrade to the half-saint realm. However, in this way, it was no different from the Naga's cultivation. At this moment, Shuang-er was completely relying on devouring other people's energy to upgrade. However, she was even more heaven-defying and could directly devour any life form. But in this way, a way to cultivate quickly appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. Find elemental life forms, kill them, and then devour them. There was no more direct way to cultivate and break through than this. Chapter 807. In the following period of time, Yang Dingtian was not in a hurry to travel. Instead, he opened his eyes wide and searched for elemental creatures here. For safety's sake, Yang Dingtian even began to turn invisible and carefully search around. Hopefully, these elemental creatures could not see him in the dark domain. Yang Dingtian searched all the way and found that elemental creatures were really, really rare. He did not find a second one for hundreds of miles. It was as if the elemental creature just now was a coincidence. Just like that, he continued to move forward. After 10 hours, Yang Dingtian found a second elemental creature. At this time, he did not say anything and directly flashed over. A devil sky-splitting lightning struck it to death. Then, he once again harvested the energy of a great grandmaster and swallowed it immediately. It still caused a slight vibration in his energy reserve and then there was no reaction. Yang Dingtian suddenly felt that he should not devour like this. Instead, he should accumulate it and then devour it all at once. The effect might be better this way. Yang Dingtian decided that the next time he hunted for elemental energy essence, he would accumulate it first. However, that was the end of tonight's harvest. Because the sky was soon bright and the sun was about to come out. In an instant, the entire world became completely bright, so bright that it was almost blinding. Yang Dingtian had no choice but to cover his eyes again and use his Xian Qi to release ice energy to maintain his body temperature. Then, the sun once again roasted the entire world until it melted. The entire dark world became extremely bright. Then, the entire ground began to melt again, turning into incomparably hot stone lava. However, this time, Yang Dingtian did not stand in place and wait. Instead, he began to move forward with difficulty. Because this was not the illusory realm of the taboo continent and there was no anti-gravity, it was very easy to walk. Yang Dingtian only needed to look at the bottom of his feet and input ice Xian Qi. Then, with every step he took, the stone lava there would freeze. Just like that, in broad daylight, Yang Dingtian also slowly moved forward, looking for elemental creatures. Logically speaking, if there were elemental creatures at night, there should also be elemental creatures during the day. At least there should be fire-type creatures. Yang Dingtian continued to move forward. Although he could not open his eyes, he could release countless wraiths to sense everything around him. There really was. Yang Dingtian had only walked less than 15 kilometers when he sensed a wave of fluctuations from the vengeful spirit. Next, he felt an intense tremor. Finally, he heard a roar. This was a vacuum, so sound waves should not be transmitted. However, Yang Dingtian did hear a roar. Perhaps this elemental creature directly transmitted the sound with energy. Yang Dingtian carefully narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, not far ahead, lava shot out in all directions, and a huge flaming man suddenly crawled out. That's right, its entire body was made of burning stones. Only its 2 eyes and its waving arms made it clear that it was alive. What was this, a fire elemental stone man? Yang Dingtian knew that it was not that there were no elemental life forms during the day, but that they were all hiding in the magma and devouring energy. They would only appear when the enemy approached. This fire-type stone golem was more than 10 meters tall. It was heading straight for Yang Dingtian. With a roar, its gigantic body came crashing down with a whistling sound. Before it even got close, Yang Dingtian felt the astonishing temperature, which was at least tens of thousands of degrees. Boom! Its huge burning fist suddenly bombarded Yang Dingtian. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian quickly flashed and dodged its attack. Boom! It rushed over again and spat out flames at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian was stunned. The fire-type stone golem, which was more than 10 meters tall, actually spat out flames with a diameter of thousands of meters. The temperature at the edge had reached tens of thousands of degrees. This fire-type stone golem didn't seem to have reached the half-saint level, but it was so powerful. Yang Dingtian couldn't watch anymore. He suddenly struck down with the devil sky-splitting lightning. The devil sky-splitting lightning wasn't the most powerful for Yang Dingtian, but it was the fastest. It was completely unleashed in seconds. Boom! The huge lightning struck the fire-type stone golem hard. It trembled violently. Then it stopped in place, and then its whole body trembled violently. It was fine, but it seemed to be very, very comfortable. Lightning energy ignored any defense. However, this stone golem was an insulator. Therefore, no matter how powerful Yang Dingtian's devil sky-splitting lightning was, it was useless. After feeling comfortable, it roared again and rushed towards Yang Dingtian. Standing in place, Yang Dingtian tried the flaming blade mystic skill and slashed out. Whoosh! A bright flame energy blade suddenly shot towards the fire-type stone golem. With this flame energy blade, even a 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster would be killed by Yang Dingtian. As a result, the fire-type stone golem suddenly opened its mouth and directly swallowed the mystic skill energy. The fire-type energy had no effect on it. Using the fire-type energy to attack was equivalent to putting out a fire. Understood. Yang Dingtian said with a smile. He reversed yin and yang, and a sword light fiercely slashed out. Ice-type energy, incomparably powerful ice-type energy, instantly slashed at the fire-type stone golem. Kacha! In an instant, the arrogant fire-type stone golem was directly frozen. The flames all over its body were completely extinguished, turning into a blue icicle. Then, Yang Dingtian flashed and rushed over, swishing his sword a few times. Pa! The frozen stone golem was instantly shattered into pieces. Then, a fiery red energy essence floated in the air. Yang Dingtian immediately took it down, but did not directly devour it. Instead, he put it in the energy jade box and accumulated it. Then, Yang Dingtian continued to move forward. 4 hours later, he encountered another fire-type stone golem. Yang Dingtian easily used the ice sword light to kill it instantly. As a result, he collected another Grandmaster-level energy essence. Just like this, Yang Dingtian stared at the scorching sun as he advanced. Until it was dark, he had hunted down 5 Grandmaster-level fire-type stone golems and collected 5 Grandmaster-level energy essences. He decided to wait until he collected 10 before devouring them together. After nightfall, Yang Dingtian did not immediately look for elemental creatures to hunt. Instead, he began to make sunglasses. That's right, sunglasses. Because there were more elemental creatures during the day, the harvest was more fruitful. However, the sun was only bright. Yang Dingtian hunted elemental monsters with his eyes closed. It was very inconvenient and dangerous. If he had sunglasses, it would be much better. There were many crystal stones in his space ring, many of which were colored and transparent crystal stones. As long as he ground out 2 lenses, it would be enough. Soon, he found 2 brown-colored crystal stones. Of course, this kind of crystal stone was very, very hard. Generally speaking, it could not be ground. However, Yang Dingtian had a soul sword close to the emperor grade. Using it to cut the crystal stone was probably no different from cutting wood. With ease, Yang Dingtian used his sword to cut out 2 pieces of sunglasses. When he put it in front of his eyes, he realized that he could not see it at all. It was a completely distorted and bizarre image. Although Yang Dingtian had cut the surface of the lens very smoothly and completely, the inside of the crystal stone was still very strange and complicated. It was unknown how many sides there were, so it was impossible to pass through parallel light. Yang Dingtian rummaged through the other crystal stones. All of them were the same. Whether it was the demon core or the crystal stone, the inside was very complicated. However, Yang Dingtian still had a way. He floated the two lenses in the air. Then, he used the million spirit demon fire to burn them. However, he had to control the temperature well. He could not let it burn directly, nor could he let it turn into ashes. Instead, he had to let it melt into a liquid. Yang Dingtian carefully controlled the temperature. From 1000 degrees to 2000 degrees, 3000 degrees, the crystal stone still did not move. When it reached 5300 degrees, it began to gradually change shape. Yang Dingtian carefully increased the temperature. Finally, when it reached 395 degrees, the crystal stone completely melted. The two crystal shards had completely melted as Yang Dingtian used his mystic qi to float in the air. Then, Yang Dingtian used his qi to bombard the melted crystal stone into the shape of a lens again. Finally, he used his ice-cold qi to bombard it. In an instant, the melted crystal stone directly solidified. Yang Dingtian held it in his hand and used his X-ray vision to see through the two lenses. Perfect. Extremely perfect. It was absolutely first-rate transparent. There was no deformation at all. Because there was a complete vacuum here, there was not even a speck of dust. Finally, Yang Dingtian melted a piece of bloody black gold to make a lens frame. Then, he mounted the lens on the lens frame. A perfect pair of sunglasses was made. He used a scorching sun crystal as the lens and bloody black gold as the lens frame. Such a pair of sunglasses would definitely be sold for a sky-high price on Earth. It would be more than a few million. Yang Dingtian put it on. Then, he lit up the darkness with his qi and took out a mirror to look at it. It was so cool. For some reason, Yang Dingtian didn't stop his attack. Instead, he used the remaining crystals to continue making sunglasses. In the end, he made a total of 10 pairs. He made one for each of his wives in Cloud Sky City. Then, he made one for each of his babies. Previously, Yang Dingtian had never brought a gift when he went on a long journey. This time, he came to the Dark Realm and finally encountered a vacuum environment. He would bring back a cool gift. After wearing it for a while, Yang Dingtian reluctantly took it off and put it into the space ring. Then, he continued to look for elemental life in the Dark Realm at night. Just like that, Yang Dingtian groped and searched in the darkness. After a full 10 hours, he did not find anything. It seemed that there were very few elemental life forms at night in the Dark Realm. Last night, Yang Dingtian had 2 gains. Tonight, he did not find anything. The sky was about to brighten. Bang! 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 At this moment, Yang Dingtian suddenly felt the ground tremble. However, it was so dark that he could not see where the elemental life forms were. Yang Dingtian immediately stood on the spot and didn't move. Then, the ground was still trembling. This was the footsteps of an elemental life form. This elemental life form must be very, very huge. Bang, bang, bang. The ground trembled more and more. That huge life form was getting closer and closer to Yang Dingtian. But Yang Dingtian still could not see it. Because, its entire body was black, and it had completely merged with the entire Dark Realm. Unless it opened its eyes, Yang Dingtian would not be able to see it. Of course, Yang Dingtian could also use the occult fire to illuminate it. However, using the occult fire to illuminate it at this time was undoubtedly an act of suicide. It was getting closer and closer. Yang Dingtian could already feel its incomparably powerful aura. Because, when it walked over, the pressure of the aura was like Mount Tai pressing down on him. Half-saint level. It was definitely an elemental life form above the half-saint level. Yang Dingtian had a headache. It turned out that there was no gain tonight because of this thing. Either there was no gain, or there was such a huge one. Perhaps it was the overlord of the surrounding area. Once it appeared, all the elemental life forms did not dare to show their faces. If he successfully hunted it and obtained its energy essence, it might bring about a huge breakthrough. However, the most important thing was how to kill it. An infinite great master would only be killed instantly if he encountered an elite above the half-saint level. At this moment, suddenly, that elemental life form suddenly opened its eyes. Swoosh, just one eye was bigger than Yang Dingtian's body. Moreover, this pair of eyes was staring at Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian shuddered. Chapter 808. Then, the elemental beast suddenly opened its big mouth. How big was this mouth? It was nearly 10 meters wide, and a ball of blue lightning was brewing inside. Through the light of this lightning, Yang Dingtian saw its mouth full of terrifying sharp teeth, and then an incomparably huge body. How big was this body? It was about 70 to 80 meters long and 30 meters tall. The whole shape was very familiar. It was the Millennium Owl that Yang Dingtian had seen before. Its back was full of barbs, its body was thin and long, its wings were huge, and its claws were sharp like knives. Yang Dingtian immediately relaxed. So it was a Millennium Owl. He had killed and subdued one of these things. It was not a problem at all. However, in the secret realm of the City of Despair, the highest cultivation among the 5 people was only at the master stage, and they still killed a Millennium Owl. Of course, at that time, the Millennium Owl was trapped in the first trial room and could not chase after them. However, now that Yang Dingtian was an infinite great master, dealing with a Millennium Owl should not be a problem. At this time, the Millennium Owl in front of him had finished brewing. It directly spat out an incomparably huge ball of lightning at Yang Dingtian. However, just as it spat out the lightning, Yang Dingtian had already flashed and jumped directly onto the Millennium Owl's body. Yang Dingtian was very clear about how to kill a Millennium Owl. He leaped onto its gigantic head and stabbed his near-emperor-grade soul sword into its eye socket. The first thing to do to kill a Millennium Owl was to blind its eyes. Moreover, the Millennium Owl's body was too huge, so it was relatively inflexible. Yang Dingtian had the demonic spirit mist cloak, so he could easily stab its eyes. However, it did not have any reaction, nor did it scream. It was as if it did not feel anything. Yang Dingtian forcefully stirred, but the Millennium Owl still did not show any signs of pain. At this time, the ball of lightning in its mouth was like an energy missile. It directly shot out hundreds of miles away, then hit the ground and exploded. In an instant, the darkness within hundreds of miles suddenly flashed. The night sky of several hundred miles was instantly filled with countless tiny lightning bolts. What's going on? Yang Dingtian realized that stabbing the eyes of the owl was useless. However, he soon realized that although the monster in front of him was an owl, it was definitely not the owl Yang Dingtian had seen before. This owl was also an elemental life form. Its eyes were just a mass of energy, so it was impossible to blind it. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian discovered that the night owl's body was made of metal and not flesh. Previously, Yang Dingtian had seen 2 Millennium Owls. Although their shells were harder than steel, they were still made of flesh and had fresh blood. The one in front of him seemed to be made of energy other than steel. Furthermore, it hadn't reached the half-step sage level. Although it was much stronger than Yang Dingtian, it was still an unbounded grandmaster. This was because the level of the lightning ball it spat out was not as high as the mystic flame lightning that Yang Dingtian created with all his might. An unbounded grandmaster was indeed an unbounded grandmaster. Its energy essence must be very powerful. Yang Dingtian suddenly picked up the near emperor-grade soul sword and stabbed at the owl's head. The owl's entire body was made of metal and was extremely hard. Even an ordinary bloody black gold sword would find it difficult to stab it. However, it was not a problem for Yang Dingtian's near emperor-grade soul sword. Although it was a little strenuous, he still stabbed the near emperor-grade soul sword into the owl's head. At this moment, the owl that was struggling crazily suddenly stopped and stood motionless. Just when Yang Dingtian thought that he had succeeded, the owl suddenly continued to struggle crazily, as if the sword just now was nothing to it. Yang Dingtian was really going crazy. He had been stabbed in the head, but it was still fine. This was an elemental life form. Thus, Yang Dingtian rode on its neck and slashed wildly. Suddenly, the near emperor-grade soul sword left countless deep scars on the owl's head. However, this elemental owl didn't seem to be in any pain. However, it still angered it. It began to go berserk and then rolled on the ground crazily, desperately using its wings to beat Yang Dingtian on top of its head. It tried to use physical methods to kill Yang Dingtian. However, Yang Dingtian had the demonic spirit mist cloak and flashed quickly. With the owl's huge body, it was purely a dream for it to hit Yang Dingtian. Thus, the owl changed its tactic and spat out lightning. However, in front of Yang Dingtian's demonic spirit mist cloak, its lightning couldn't hit him at all. Yang Dingtian was like a ghost, constantly jumping and shuttling on its huge body. The owl ran crazily and rolled crazily, but it couldn't get Yang Dingtian up. Thus, the owl used its most powerful attack. Pa 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 pa, infinite lightning wall. A huge bolt of lightning that was thousands of square meters in size suddenly struck down from the sky, attacking this area indiscriminately. And Yang Dingtian immediately activated the demonic spirit fire energy shield. Although the owl in front of him was very close to the half-saint level, it was not a half-saint after all. If Yang Dingtian was directly hit by its lightning, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, this kind of indiscriminate attack, the energy of the lightning wall of thousands of square meters was very scattered. If he was hit, it would at most be equivalent to the level of a 9-star 9th-grade Great Grandmaster. Yang Dingtian's demonic spirit fire energy shield could easily block it. Sure enough, the endless lightning wall couldn't break through the demonic spirit fire energy shield with the continuous support of Yang Dingtian's chi. After crazily striking the lightning wall for half an hour, Yang Dingtian was still safe and sound. And this owl had spat out lightning thousands of times. At this time, the energy in its body was almost exhausted. Thus, it almost went berserk, continuing to roll crazily and flap its wings desperately. However, it couldn't do anything to Yang Dingtian. However, Yang Dingtian couldn't do anything to it either. Yang Dingtian didn't know how to kill it at all. Its entire body had at least been slashed by Yang Dingtian thousands of times. It was full of wounds. However, it was useless at all. This elemental owl seemed to be impossible to kill. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian had an idea. He did as he said. He jumped down from the owl and stood in front of it, motionless. The elemental owl was stunned. Just now, it had been tossing and turning for half the night. It had exhausted all its means, but this hateful little thing still refused to come down from its body. Now, it actually came down of its own accord. It suddenly roared and slowly opened its mouth. Whoosh! A million spirits demonic fire. Whoosh! A demonic spirit demonic fire. Then, Yang Dingtian kept injecting chi into the two mystic fires. And the elemental owl was also constantly condensing lightning energy. It was going to release a fatal attack on Yang Dingtian. Although the mystic fire lightning was powerful, it was troublesome and time-consuming. After half a minute, Yang Dingtian finally injected 80% of his chi into the two mystic fires. At this time, the elemental owl was almost done condensing the ball of lightning in its stomach. This should be its last attack. It had condensed all its energy. This should be its greatest power as an Infinity Grandmaster Owl. Whoosh, the two mystic fires of the Chaos attribute suddenly entered the elemental owl's mouth and flew directly into its stomach. At the same time, the huge ball of lightning in the elemental owl's stomach suddenly blasted out. The two mystic fires controlled by Yang Dingtian violently collided with the elemental owl's stomach. Boom! The incomparably powerful mystic fire lightning suddenly exploded. At the same time, the elemental owl's ball of lightning also violently collided with Yang Dingtian's mystic fire lightning. Boom 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 boom, and Yang Dingtian had already used the flash technique to quickly escape before the bombardment. It was really like a nuclear bomb exploding. The darkness of the entire world was suddenly torn apart. The night sky within a few hundred miles was instantly as bright as day. The entire elemental owl's huge body was suddenly blasted apart. Then, nothing could be seen. Everything was filled with countless rays of light. When Yang Dingtian was still a 9-star level 9 Grandmaster, even a half-saint could not withstand his mystic fire lightning. Because the mystic fire lightning was 100 times more powerful than the demonic sky-splitting lightning. At this time, Yang Dingtian had already broken through to the Infinity Grandmaster level 3 times. So, although this mystic fire lightning only had 80% of its chi energy, its power was probably more powerful than the one that had bombarded Wu Daozi. The elemental owl in front of him should not be able to withstand it. After the earth-shattering explosion, Yang Dingtian quickly rushed over. He found that the ground within a few thousand meters was completely red, as if it had been baked by a raging fire. And that elemental owl was already dead. Its huge body had already been burned red and twisted into a ball. Then, a bluish-purple energy essence floated in the air. Yang Dingtian held it in his hand and immediately felt an incomparably powerful energy. Although this elemental owl had not reached the half-saint level, its energy level was still much higher than his. Yang Dingtian took out a few other Grandmaster level energy essences and tried to see if they could be fused. They could be fused, and it was even easy. Yang Dingtian fused the 7 Grandmaster level energy essences together and suddenly became a larger energy essence. However, it still could not compare to the energy essence of this elemental owl. It was not even half of it. Yang Dingtian then fused it with the energy essence of the elemental owl and suddenly formed a slightly larger energy essence, but it was only less than an inch in diameter. Then, Yang Dingtian held it in his hand and sat down cross-legged. He opened the Xian meridians all over his body and began to devour the energy. Wow! As soon as he devoured it, Yang Dingtian felt the richness of the mixed energy essence in his hand. It was very, very rich. The most direct energy, like a tide, surged out and violently entered Yang Dingtian's energy reserve. Almost a moment later, Yang Dingtian's energy reserve began to expand. After it expanded to the extreme, it suddenly exploded. Yang Dingtian's body once again entered a temporary state of nothingness. He broke through once again. However, this energy essence was still not exhausted. It continued to pour into Yang Dingtian's energy reserve. 15 minutes later, Yang Dingtian's energy reserve expanded again and again. Then, it suddenly exploded again. His body and consciousness fell into a temporary state of nothingness. He broke through again. Then, after about 2 or 3 minutes of devouring, this energy essence was completely exhausted. Just one of this thing allowed Yang Dingtian to break through twice. Speaking of which, this was the 5th time Yang Dingtian had broken through after becoming a 9-star level 9 Grandmaster. Of course, he was still an unbounded Grandmaster. His current combat power should be about 2 or 3 times that of when he had just broken through to 9-star level 9. But how many unbounded Grandmasters did he have to break through to become a half-saint? However, Yang Dingtian still couldn't help but sigh. This energy essence was really heaven-defying. Previously, Every time Yang Dingtian swallowed pure qi to break through, even if his energy reserve was completely exhausted, he still needed to absorb qi for more than 20 hours before he could break through again. But now, directly swallowing the energy essence, he could break through in half an hour. And the most heaven-defying thing was that this energy essence didn't have too many requirements for his qi meridians and energy reserve. That was to say, if he got enough energy essence, wouldn't he be able to bring it back and give it to Dishi Bian and Mo Ji to improve their cultivation? But for now, Yang Dingtian's first priority was to break through to become a half-saint. Only when he broke through to become a half-saint could he bring these energy essences to Dishi Bian and the others. But Yang Dingtian really wanted to know how many times he had to break through and how many Grandmaster level energy essences he needed to break through to become a half-saint. Who could tell him the answer? Yang Dingtian once asked Queen Poisa. In the end, the answer he got was completely useless. Because she was a Naga. Moreover, it took Poisa N years to become a half-saint from a 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster. Next, Yang Dingtian continued his hunting and cultivation journey. Without sleep or rest, he hunted for about 800 miles for one day and one night. Generally speaking, the results of hunting were relatively stable. In one day and one night, he basically got 8 Grandmaster level energy essences. Sometimes, he could get a little more. But unfortunately, he didn't encounter any more Grandmaster level elemental monsters like that before. This dark area was closest to the vital continent of the human countries, so the time it took to become a dark area should be the shortest. This time didn't seem to be enough to breed powerful elemental creatures. Therefore, the elemental creatures Yang Dingtian encountered were all of low cultivation. Perhaps, the deeper he went, the better it would be. In this way, after 2 or 3 months, Yang Dingtian had accumulated nearly 1,000 Grandmaster level energy essences. Yang Dingtian suspected that the elemental creatures in this dark area of tens of thousands of miles had been hunted clean by him. Just as Yang Dingtian was ready to continue hunting like this, looking forward to the 2nd and 3rd Grandmaster level elemental creatures, a new abyss border suddenly appeared in front of him. Ah, Yang Dingtian was stunned. Just like that, the dark domain ended abruptly. Because Yang Dingtian was hunting in a sweeping manner, he was relatively clear about the area of this dark area. It was about 10,000 miles in length and less than 10,000 miles in width. The dark area was very, very, very large, tens of billions of square kilometers. This dark domain was a little too small. Then, how many areas were there in this dark area? However, it seemed that the elemental creatures in the next dark area should be much stronger. Perhaps, there would be infinite Grandmaster level elemental creatures, or even demi-saint level elemental creatures there. That would be good news for Yang Dingtian's cultivation, but it would definitely be many times more dangerous. Yang Dingtian began to fuse these energy essences at the edge of the abyss border. He fused 1,000 Grandmaster level energy essences into 10 large energy essences. After devouring and breaking through, he would pass through the abyss border and reach the new dark area. Of course, what Yang Dingtian did not know was, at this time, in the 2nd dark area on the other side of the abyss border, over 1,000 Fox clan experts were in groups, hunting all kinds of infinite Grandmaster level and demi-saint level elemental creatures. Although the colorless door of the Skull Hall had been closed. However, Yang Dingtian could use the Void Fissure Fire to pass through any abyss border. Soon, he would enter the 2nd dark area. The good news was that he could finally know how many energy essences he had to devour and how many times he had to break through to demi-saint. The bad news was that someone was stealing from him. He could not enjoy all the elemental creatures in the entire dark area by himself. Chapter 809. Yang Dingtian had estimated that about 100 ordinary Great Grandmaster level energy essences could be fused into one infinite Grandmaster level energy essence. Of course, there were also high and low infinite Grandmaster level energy essences. For example, the elemental owl that Yang Dingtian had hunted was a very high infinite grandmaster level energy essence. This time, Yang Dingtian had fused a total of 10 infinite grandmaster level energy essences. The previous elemental owl's energy essence had allowed Yang Dingtian to break through twice. Then, this time, there were a total of 10 infinite grandmaster level energy essences. How many times could he break through? Yang Dingtian began to hold them in his palm one by one, then released all the celestial qi in his body into his mouth and began to devour the energy essences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the energy essences were almost completely devoured, but there was still no breakthrough. Finally, when he finished devouring the 10th, his energy reserve began to expand, boom. Then, he fell into nothingness. Yang Dingtian finally broke through and entered the 6th infinite grandmaster level breakthrough. God! How could this be? He had previously imagined that 10 infinite grandmaster level energy essences would allow him to break through at least 4 or 5 times. In the end, it was just once. Just once. Yang Dingtian was afraid that he couldn't bear it, so he didn't fuse the 10 energy essences into one. If he had known, he would have just fused one. But why was this? 10 infinite grandmaster level energy essences could only allow him to break through once. Although these infinite grandmaster level energy essences were not as big as the elemental owls, it couldn't be that 10 of them added together were equal to one of it, right? Yang Dingtian shook his head and stopped thinking about it. In short, this reality proved one thing. That was, he couldn't cultivate in this first dark domain. First of all, the elemental creatures here were almost all hunted. Secondly, the elemental creatures here were too low level, all below the great grandmaster level. There was only one infinite grandmaster level 1. It could be imagined that he would need more and more energy essences. This first dark domain would definitely not be able to support his consumption. Yang Dingtian looked at the abyss border in front of him. It appeared just in time. It was time for Yang Dingtian to enter the second dark domain. Yang Dingtian skillfully released a snow-white void-splitting flame and floated towards the abyss's border. Then, the spatial rending flame began to devour the energy of the abyss before splitting into the black and white flames. 1 to 2, 2 to 4 to 8, and so on and so on and so forth. Instantly, the entire border of the abyss was filled with black and white void-rending fire. Then, the two mystic flames began to fuse, turning into a colorless and transparent flame. Suddenly, the abyss border became a transparent crystal abyss once again. This was it, fire devouring Yang Grandmaster level. Then, infinite Grandmaster level energy fire Devo. Yang Dingtian leaped down. God's level energy space. He kept falling. The time that belonged to Yang Dingtian had stopped again. It felt like an instant, but also like an eternity. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian charged out of the abyss border and entered a new world. The void-splitting fire Devo condensed into one and entered Yang Dingtian's sea of qi. This time, Yang Dingtian was mentally prepared. His entire qi sea continued to expand, and expand. Boom! It exploded again. His entire body sank into nothingness. Yang Dingtian had entered the 7th breakthrough of the limitless Great Master. After waking up, Yang Dingtian began to observe the world in front of him. This was the second dark domain. It looked no different from the first dark domain. It was still night. He could not see his own fingers. Then, Yang Dingtian squatted down and touched the stones on the ground. He felt the difference. In the first dark domain, although all the stones were black, they were still stones. However, the stones here didn't feel like stones anymore. Instead, they felt like a type of metal. Of course, they were not metal, but they felt very much like metal. In other words, this area had been in the dark domain for a slightly longer time. After a long period of melting and solidification, the stones had also changed. Then, there was no doubt that the elemental creatures here were much stronger. For example, in the first dark domain, although Yang Dingtian only found one infinite Grandmaster elemental creature, the rest were all Grandmaster elemental creatures. He did not encounter any Grandmaster elemental creatures. Was it because there were no Grandmaster elemental creatures? Definitely not, because all elemental creatures must have broken through from low to high level. All elemental creatures below Grandmaster level must have been dormant, quietly devouring energy. Only elemental creatures above Grandmaster level began to show themselves, trying to hunt other elemental creatures to improve themselves. Therefore, the elemental creatures in the second dark domain, as long as they showed themselves, must be very powerful. Therefore, the situation that Yang Dingtian was facing right now was definitely a situation where danger lurked everywhere. Therefore, Yang Dingtian carefully released countless vengeful spirits to detect everything within a radius of dozens of miles. Then, he carefully advanced. He explored 50 miles, 200 miles, an entire night passed, but Yang Dingtian did not find a single elemental creature. What was going on? Why was there not even one? This was too strange. Next, Yang Dingtian could not explore leisurely, because the sun had risen. Soon, the entire world became incomparably transparent. The surrounding temperature rose sharply. Yang Dingtian immediately put on his sunglasses, circulated his celestial qi, lowered the temperature, and maintained his life. Then, he continued to advance. Soon, the entire ground began to melt. Yang Dingtian found that the temperature in the second dark domain was much higher than in the first dark domain. Actually, the sun's rays should be about the same, but the things under his feet that seemed to be metal or stone were crazily devouring heat, so the temperature rose sharply. Yang Dingtian felt that the surface temperature was at least close to 2000 degrees. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's celestial qi was drained even faster. Braving the terrible heat, Yang Dingtian continued to advance. 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, 500 miles, he did not encounter a single elemental creature. Was this a ghost? How could this be? Why was there not even a single elemental creature? He had already advanced 1,000 miles. The second dark domain took longer to form than the first dark domain, so there should be more elemental creatures. Of course, because they were hunting each other, the numbers would definitely decrease, but it should not be to the extent that there was not even one. Just like that, Yang Dingtian continued to advance, and advance. He advanced 1,000 miles. He really did not find anything. The sky darkened. The temperature dropped sharply, and the ground that had already melted red quickly solidified again. Yang Dingtian hurriedly sat down cross-legged, replenished his body with new elixirs, and then swallowed an aura-gathering elixir, and began to recover his combat celestial qi. After everything was restored, Yang Dingtian once again released countless wraiths, and began to travel at night, and search for elemental creatures. However, this night, after more than 1,000 miles, he still did not find anything. The next day, staring at the terrible heat and lava, Yang Dingtian trekked another 1,000 miles, but still did not find anything. The third day. The fourth day. The fifth day. The sixth day. The seventh day. The eighth day. A full 10 days had passed, and Yang Dingtian had already explored more than 10,000 miles of the dark domain. He still did not find anything, not even a single elemental creature. This was really a ghost? Yang Dingtian was shocked. Could it be that he had walked through the entire second dark domain, and then crossed the border of the abyss to enter the third dark domain? This did not make sense. Why was there not a single elemental creature in the second dark domain? Although he was extremely disappointed, Yang Dingtian still released countless wraiths, and carefully advanced. Forward, forward, forward. It should be late at night now. Walking aimlessly like this, Yang Dingtian was a little drowsy. Suddenly, dozens of miles ahead, there was an extremely strong energy fluctuation. Yang Dingtian could not help but be shocked and ecstatic. Elemental creatures had finally appeared. However, this energy fluctuation was very, very powerful, at least more powerful than the elemental owl. This meant that this elemental creature might be very powerful. Could he deal with it? However, it was not easy to encounter an elemental creature. It was impossible to just run away without a fight. Anyway, with the demonic spirit mist cloak, there was no need to worry about not being able to escape. Thus, Yang Dingtian used the mystic invisibility skill, and flew toward the energy fluctuation dozens of miles away. After a short while, Yang Dingtian arrived at his destination. Then, he was even more stunned as he stood rooted to the ground. Because, there were no elemental creatures in this huge energy fluctuation, only a dark cave entrance. An extremely powerful energy was constantly emerging from this cave entrance. So that was it. No wonder he could not see any elemental creatures on the surface, they were all hiding underground. Then, should he go down? One must know that an underground cave was definitely much more dangerous than the surface. And this was the depths of the second dark domain. The elemental creatures were definitely extremely powerful. Just from the faint energy fluctuation of this cave entrance, there must be powerful elemental creatures inside, perhaps more than one. Go in. Retreating without a fight was not his style. Yang Dingtian turned invisible and sneaked into the cave. This cave was really, 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 really deep. 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters. Finally, he explored to the end. Then, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. This was a huge cave, and there was an extremely powerful elemental creature inside. But this was not the reason why Yang Dingtian was stunned. He was shocked because, other than the powerful elemental creature, there were actually 5 people here. How could there be people? Who were these people? Chapter 8:10. Soon, Yang Dingtian knew who these people were. They were the high demon fox aristocrats from Little Western Paradise. Because Yang Dingtian had heard these people talking. Then, Yang Dingtian knew that this so-called second dark realm was the dark realm that the high demon fox aristocrats cultivated in. Its entrance was in the colorless door in the Hall of Heads. Of course, that door was closed now. However, Yang Dingtian still arrived here after passing through 2 abyss borders. No wonder he didn't see any elemental creatures after walking for more than 10,000 miles. They were all killed by the demon fox race. No matter how many elemental creatures there were in the second dark realm, they wouldn't be enough to fight against the entire demon fox race. Also, the high demon fox aristocrats had been fighting here for at least thousands of years. For a moment, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but feel both happy and worried. He was happy that he was no longer alone in the vast dark realm. He could finally find someone to ask about many things. He was worried that the competition would be very, very fierce. Yang Dingtian temporarily put aside his worries and carefully observed the situation in front of him. This elemental creature was a 9-headed snake. Its body was more than 100 meters long, and its diameter was several meters thick. Its 9 heads looked extremely ferocious and terrifying. Its entire body was black and made of metal that was impenetrable by swords and spears. The eyes of each head were of a different color. Its opponents were 5 high demon fox aristocrats. 3 men and 2 women. Among them, the one with the highest cultivation was a silver-haired woman. Her cultivation was very close to half-sage. In addition, there was a black-haired man who was also very close to half-sage. Among the remaining 3, the purple-haired woman was the youngest and had the lowest cultivation. She was only a 9-star level, 9 great grandmaster. The other 2 men had just crossed over to half-sage. In short, the cultivation of these 5 people was very, very balanced. And this nine-headed snake seemed to be more powerful than the elemental owl that Yang Dingtian killed. However, he didn't know if it had broken through to half-sage. But in short, it was very fierce. Fighting 1 against 5, it wasn't at a disadvantage. Soon, Yang Dingtian discovered how heaven-defying this hydra was. Its body was basically entrenched in the deep red liquid, and its 9 heads poked out to attack. Most importantly, each of its 9 heads surpassed the cultivation base of a limitless great grandmaster. Each of them fought on their own, completely independent of their own intelligence. That was not all. Among the 9 snake heads, some were physical attacks, some were fire, and some were ice. It was a dual elemental creature. Among the 5 members of the fox clan, the silver-haired woman and the black-haired man had the highest cultivation. Because their cultivation was infinitely close to that of a half-saint, each of them had to fight against 3 snake heads. As for the remaining 3 people, they had to deal with the remaining 3 snake heads. The 2 limitless great grandmasters were already struggling to fight. As for the 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster, the purple-haired woman was completely relying on her treasures to dodge. She simply didn't dare to face one of the snake heads head-on. In short, this battle was extremely disadvantageous for the 5 high-level demon foxes. The 2 experts who were infinitely close to becoming half-saints were barely holding on. It was only a matter of time before the 2 limitless great grandmasters were defeated. As for the 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster, the purple-haired woman could only desperately dodge. She would be in danger at any time. Therefore, if this continued, the defeat of the 5-person team was only a matter of time. Right now, they were just barely maintaining a balance. Once the purple-haired woman was defeated and injured, the remaining snake head could attack anyone at will, directly breaking the balance and winning. "Give up, Z can't take it anymore," the black-haired man said. "No." The purple-haired woman said, "It's been more than a year. We tracked it for more than half a year, and then dug the cave. Finally, we found this hydra. We absolutely can't give up. But, if this goes on, we will all be finished," another limitless great grandmaster said. "If you want to leave, you can leave. Even if I die, I will die here," the silver-haired woman said sternly. The 5 of them had no choice but to fight desperately. However, the situation changed quickly. The purple-haired woman with the weakest cultivation base, Z, had almost exhausted her cultivation base, and her dodging speed was slightly slower. Whoosh! The poisonous arrow shot out of the hydra's mouth instantly hit her chest. Immediately, her delicate body flew dozens of meters away, and then her whole body completely changed color. Z! The remaining 4 people exclaimed. The black-haired man immediately rushed over to save the purple-haired girl. The silver-haired woman said coldly, "Don't move. I will take this extra snake head. If anyone leaves the battle, everyone will die." "But, Z is going to die soon," the black-haired man said angrily. "It's better for her to die than for everyone to die," the silver-haired woman said. Yang Dingtian immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and thought to himself, "This silver-haired woman is beautiful, but she is really cold and ruthless." Yang Dingtian saw that the Naga woman named Aziz's body began to change color rapidly. The hydra's poison quickly spread in her body. Yang Dingtian knew that he shouldn't show up at this time. However, he still couldn't leave her in the lurch. Instantly, he flashed over and directly hugged Az, who was poisoned, and quickly fed her elixirs. However, a few elixirs were completely useless. The hydra's poison was quite powerful. The poison was still spreading rapidly in her body. At this time, it was unknown whether she was dead or alive, and she was unconscious. At this time, the 4 high nobles of the Fox Demon tribe had already discovered Yang Dingtian. The black-haired man instantly asked sternly, "Who are you?" Yang Dingtian didn't answer. Instead, he cut his finger and let his blood drip into the purple-haired woman's mouth. Yang Dingtian's blood was completely cleansed by the deep-sea mystic poison, the dark mystic fire, and the Naga's mystic meridians. It could be said that he was completely immune to all poisons. His blood was a natural antidote. As expected, after Yang Dingtian's blood entered her stomach, the poison in the purple-haired woman's body slowly faded away. Her face gradually regained its color. The purple-haired woman's life was saved. However, the four-man battle team on the other side wasn't so comfortable. Originally, the 5 of them were at a disadvantage against the 9 snake heads. However, they could still barely hold on. Now, one of the snake heads was free and was launching sneak attacks on the 4 of them. Almost in the blink of an eye, 2 limitless great masters were already injured. One of their shoulders was directly pierced by sharp teeth, and the other's arm was directly broken in many parts. These 4 people were completely surrounded by danger. It was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Yang Dingtian didn't say anything and suddenly pulled out his near-emperor-grade soul sword. Pa! A bolt of demonic sky-splitting lightning struck the empty snake head that was ambushing from all directions. Very quickly, Yang Dingtian attracted the hatred of this snake head. It instantly attacked Yang Dingtian with all its might. Therefore, the battle quickly entered a new balance. However, this balance was very fragile. Especially the 2 injured limitless great masters, they could collapse at any time. Once they collapsed, 2 of the snake heads would be free. At that time, there would only be one ending, which was being wiped out. Then, if the 5-man team wanted to win, it would be very easy. Destroying one of the snake heads could break the balance and gain the advantage. Then, one by one, they would destroy all the remaining snake heads. At present, it seemed that the hope of destroying one of the snake heads first could only fall on Yang Dingtian. This was because although the silver-haired woman and the black-haired man's cultivation were higher and infinitely close to the half-saint level, they had already reached their limit to resist 3 snake heads. As for the other 2 limitless great masters, it would be good enough if they could protect themselves. Seeing Yang Dingtian suddenly burst out with the demonic sky-splitting lightning, everyone was suddenly stunned and looked at Yang Dingtian in amazement. However, this demonic sky-splitting lightning was still useless against the 9-headed snake. It seemed that all the elemental creatures Yang Dingtian had encountered were not afraid of lightning attacks. They really didn't know how that elemental owl became an overlord in the first dark realm. Since it wasn't afraid of lightning, then they would directly use physical attacks. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's sword was like lightning, wildly slashing at the snake head. It had to be said that the snake head was extremely fast. Even the silver-haired woman, whose cultivation was infinitely close to the half-saint level, found it difficult to successfully hit the snake head once. It was because its speed was just too fast. It shrunk like a bolt of lightning. However, this speed was nothing in front of Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian had the demonic spirit mist cloak, so it was completely flashing. Whoosh 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 whoosh. No matter how fast the snake head was, it was impossible for it to hit Yang Dingtian once. Yang Dingtian, however, easily slashed it dozens or hundreds of times. Ordinary sharp swords couldn't do anything to the snake head at all, because it was completely impenetrable. Yang Dingtian's soul sword was close to the emperor level, which was almost the sharpest weapon in the world. In addition, Yang Dingtian's every slash was filled with extremely powerful celestial qi. Therefore, in almost a moment, the entire abyss was flying in a mess. This snake head was almost covered in wounds from Yang Dingtian's slashes. In the blink of an eye, it was unrecognizable, and its speed slowed down a lot. However, it was even more violent. Roar! Suddenly, it opened its mouth and madly shot green poison arrows at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian didn't even try to dodge. He lifted his emperor-grade soul sword and slashed down ferociously at its head. After spitting out the poison, the snake head was especially weak. Crack! The snake's head was severed by Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian, who was shrouded in the poisonous fog, was completely unscathed. He even directly opened his xian veins and madly devoured it. This poisonous fog was also energy. After devouring it all, he used the yin-yang qi transformation technique to refine it into pure celestial qi energy. As for the poisonous part, he forced it out of his palm and condensed it into a poisonous pill. This thing was Naga Shuang's favorite. After the snake head was cut off, it still jumped around on the ground, opened its mouth, and desperately tried to bite Yang Dingtian. Swish 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 swish. Yang Dingtian madly slashed hundreds of times, and in an instant, the head was directly broken into pieces. Such tyrannical violence stunned the other 4 people. They looked at the soul sword in Yang Dingtian's hand with incomparable envy. In this battle against the Hydra, almost all of the suffering was the Hydra's invulnerability. This Hydra was very insensitive to celestial qi attacks, and only physical attacks were effective. However, it was invulnerable. Yang Dingtian's treasured sword was like cutting melons and vegetables. It was really awesome. After eliminating the first snakehead, Yang Dingtian followed the same method. Soon, the second, third, and fourth snake heads were cut off. After the third snake head was cut off, the battle situation was directly reversed. Especially after Yang Dingtian took on one of the silver-haired woman's snake heads, her combat strength was instantly released and directly broke the balance. Her sword could not cut off the snake heads, but she used violence to directly smash one of the snake heads. The other snake head was twisted into a ball by her, pressed to the ground, and roasted into a pile of molten iron with the celestial fire. The black-haired man was not to be outdone and also destroyed 2 snake heads. Therefore, within an hour after Yang Dingtian joined the battle, the 5-person team won a complete victory. This was the characteristic of team combat. One must not have a fatal weakness. And that purple-haired girl was that fatal weakness, which almost caused the entire battle to have a destructive ending. After Yang Dingtian replaced her, the balance was instantly reversed, directly leading to the appearance of victory. After destroying the Hydra, the 2 infinite great masters directly lay on the ground, motionless. At the same time, 9 energy essences slowly floated up. What a huge surprise! There were actually 9 energy essences in this Hydra. Moreover, each of them was larger than the elemental owl that Yang Dingtian had hunted. The silver-haired woman ignored the 9 energy essences and suddenly drew her sword, pointing it at Yang Dingtian. Who are you? Why are you secretly following us? The silver-haired woman looked at Yang Dingtian and asked coldly. At the same time, that black-haired expert walked behind Yang Dingtian unconcernedly. Meanwhile, those 2 limitless great masters had also surrounded Yang Dingtian in the middle, one on the left and one on the right. The black-haired man looked at Yang Dingtian. Sir, you have saved our lives, and we will remember this. However, you still have to tell us your origin. You also know that the rules in the Dark Realm are very cruel. Every time there are hundreds or even thousands of people who come in to cultivate, and less than 1/10 of them can come out alive. Yang Dingtian said, then, before I tell you my origin, can you also tell us your names? You don't know us? The silver-haired woman said coldly. Yes, Yang Dingtian said. The silver-haired woman suddenly had a strange look. There was actually a fox demon who had entered the Dark Realm to cultivate who did not know her. I am the princess of the Golden Ah clan, Yao Li. The silver-haired woman said coldly. It was her. This woman was Yao Qi's adopted sister in the Golden Ah clan. Chapter 8:11. Yang Dingtian knew very little about Yao Li. He only knew that she had a very good relationship with Yao Qi. When Yao Qi showed her powerful abilities and her status in the Golden Ah clan became awkward, Yao Li took the initiative to marry Yao Qi. That was because in the Little Western Paradise's high nobles, women also had the right to inherit. Yao Li's actions were equivalent to passing her inheritance to Yao Qi. She hoped that Yao Qi could become the leader of the Golden Ah clan in the future. Of course, the leader of the Golden Ah clan was not something to look forward to. That was because it was a lifelong position. Moreover, the lifespan of the Fox clan was very, very long. Who knew how long it would take for Yao Li's father to pass away? However, as long as one was the young master of the clan, it was equivalent to the second in command of the clan. Most of the time, they could exercise the same authority as the leader. However, Yao Qi did not want to live under someone else's roof. She decisively left the Golden Ah clan and took Yong Shi as her master. In the end, she successfully defied the natural order and became the chairman of the Little Western Paradise. Hence, Yao Qi's life was definitely a legendary one. "Alright, stranger, it's time to tell me where you came from," Yao Li said coldly. Instantly, Yang Dingtian was in a dilemma. He did not know whether to tell the truth or lie. Actually, she still thought that Yang Dingtian was one of the high nobles of the Fox clan and one of the names to enter the Dark Realm. However, he followed her with ulterior motives. Telling the truth might be dangerous. After all, humans and Fox clan were different races. Moreover, the Fox clan probably treated the second Dark Realm as their exclusive property. If humans entered rashly, they would definitely be viewed as enemies or even killed. Moreover, it was not easy to answer how Yang Dingtian entered the Dark Realm. If he told a lie, it would go against Yang Dingtian's heart. It was not that he was so hypocritical that he did not want to lie. However, the woman in front of him, Yao Li, could not tolerate any lies. Most importantly, there were many high nobles of the Fox clan in the second Dark Realm. Moreover, killing was not prohibited here. Moreover, the elemental creatures here were all very powerful. Yang Dingtian might not be able to handle them alone. Hence, he wanted to join this team. Hence, being honest with each other became very important. Therefore, Yang Dingtian decided to tell the truth. If the other party heard that Yang Dingtian was a human and launched an attack, he could easily turn invisible, flash, and escape. Although Yang Dingtian wasn't a match for the other party, he was still able to leave calmly. "Before I tell you who I am, I hope you won't ask me how I got here," Yang Dingtian said. Once those words were spoken, Yao Li was stunned, and then she nodded. "I'm a human. My name isn't important, but I can say it if necessary," Yang Dingtian said. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression changed drastically. "How is that possible?" Yao Li said sternly, You clearly have the silver dragon bloodline in your body." "Yes, I also have the silver dragon bloodline." Yang Dingtian said, "Actually, that's not all. My silver dragon bloodline may be even richer than yours." "That's right." After Yao Li's silver dragon bloodline entered Yang Dingtian's body, a different change immediately occurred. And under the catalysis of the dark green dragon, it seemed to have sublimated. Therefore, when the silver palace swallowed the darkness crystal, Yang Dingtian's body instantly turned into the appearance of the fallen silver dragon. "How did you get here?" Yao Li asked, but after asking, she immediately shut her mouth because Yang Dingtian said not to ask him this question. She immediately took a step forward. The other three also took a step forward. As long as Yao Li gave the order, the four of them would attack together and kill Yang Dingtian. After all, he wasn't the same kind. "Why did you follow us?" Yao Li asked. Yang Dingtian said, "I didn't follow you. After entering the Dark Realm, I've been looking for elemental creatures. After searching for a long time, I found this cave and went in. In the end, I found that you were fighting this Hydra. I didn't want to disturb you, but when I saw that the purple-haired girl was injured, I couldn't bear it, so I helped." "Then what do you want now?" Yao Li asked. "I want to join you," Yang Dingtian said. "Obviously, this purple-haired girl is no longer suitable for battle." "Join us?" Yao Li looked at Yang Dingtian up and down. "Do you know that if you hadn't told the truth just now, you would have become a corpse now? You're a human, not one of my kind. Your heart must be different." I should have killed you immediately, but since you saved my sister, I'll spare your life. Sister. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl on the ground struggled to get up and said, Sister, let him join. I'm a burden to begin with. He's very strong. If he joins us, our team will be more powerful. No. Yao Li said, we can't let disloyal people join. This is a principle. Don't lose sight of the big picture for the sake of small benefits. Princess Li. Immediately, the black-haired man opened his mouth and tried to persuade her. No, I said no, and that means no. Yao Li said coldly, moreover, this person is only relying on his agile movements and sharp sword. He's only useful against golden elemental creatures like the Hydra. If he encounters other elemental creatures, he will be vulnerable. His cultivation is at most the same as Ah Wen and Ah Wu. Ah Wen and Ah Wu were referring to the two ordinary infinite great masters. These two people should be her attendants. Sister, he saved my life, the purple-haired girl said. Yao Li directly took out one of the 9 floating energy essences and handed it to Yang Dingtian. Our Golden Ah clan never owes anyone favors. This is your reward for saving my sister and helping us defeat the Hydra. Leave. It's impossible for you to join us. Yang Dingtian was speechless. The girl in front of him had the same determination as Yao Qi, but she didn't have Yao Qi's intelligence. Therefore, she was especially stubborn and unreasonable. Just by looking at her appearance, one could see that she had a tall and straight body. Although her face was extremely beautiful, the lines of her facial features were clearly defined. The curves of her delicate body were originally curvaceous, but they were forcefully flattened. On the other hand, the purple-haired girl that Yang Dingtian saved, although she was much younger, her face was exquisite and beautiful. Her delicate body was voluptuous and curvaceous. She was especially attractive. Although Yang Dingtian wanted to join her team, seeing Yao Li's attitude, he didn't force her. He directly took the energy essence and turned to leave. I'm sorry, the purple-haired girl said softly when he passed by her. Yang Dingtian shook his head and left the cave. Next, Yang Dingtian began his solo journey again. However, he still didn't find anything. 3 days later, he discovered another intense energy wave. When he arrived, he found another cave. Therefore, he turned invisible and sneaked in. After tens of thousands of meters, he indeed found another very, very powerful elemental beast. It was a flame demon, definitely a beast above the half-saint level. However, there were a total of 20 high demon fox nobles attacking. Among these 20 people, there were as many as 5 of them who were demi-saints and above. Not only that, but there were also 3 experts guarding the entrance to the abyss, not allowing anyone to enter. At the entrance, Yang Dingtian saw 2 corpses. They were both from the demon fox race. Therefore, Yang Dingtian turned invisible and flashed away almost immediately. This team was very strong. It could be said that as long as he showed himself, he would definitely die. The other party wouldn't even listen to his explanation and directly kill him. That was because the most crucial battle was going on inside. Any outsider who came in and caused trouble could lead to the annihilation of the entire team. This was not a game where they could start again after being annihilated. If they were annihilated here, they would be completely dead. In the next few days, Yang Dingtian wandered alone in the second dark realm, but he still didn't find anything. Moreover, he had already fully sensed the danger within. He had already entered the cave 4 times and met different teams that were killing elemental creatures inside. At the entrance of each cave, there were corpses. Some had 2 or 3 corpses, some had more than 10. Obviously, the elemental beasts of the second dark realm all lived deep underground. Only occasionally, for some reason, they would dig a deep cave and come to the surface. Therefore, every cave meant an elemental creature, which meant extremely precious energy essence. And the same cave would often be discovered by a few teams together. At this time, if there was room for discussion, they would fight together. If there was no room for discussion, they would either retreat or fight. And at this time, fighting was the majority of the choices. Therefore, at the entrance of each cave, there were corpses. It was no wonder that thousands of high demon fox nobles entered the dark realm to cultivate, but after 200 years, less than 100 people could leave. Because this was a place of naked fighting and killing. Yang Dingtian continued to search everywhere. Compared to others, Yang Dingtian definitely had a very natural advantage. That was, he could use the million spirit demon fire to detect energy waves. Others searched one place at a time, but Yang Dingtian could search tens to hundreds of miles in an instant. Also, Yang Dingtian discovered that even if there were deep caves, they would not last long. Because in the day, the entire ground would melt. By then, magma would flow into the cave and gradually seal the entire cave. Just like that, carefully avoiding the other teams, Yang Dingtian continued to search everywhere. This second dark realm was really much bigger than the first dark realm. Finally, one day, Yang Dingtian found something. This day might be Yang Dingtian's lucky day. This was a brand new cave. Yang Dingtian carried great hope and surprise as he snuck into the cave with his stealth ability. He went deeper, deeper, deeper. After almost 20,000 meters, he saw a huge magma abyss. A dark balrog with flames all over its body was swimming above the magma. And, the most amazing thing was that this dark balrog did not reach the level of a half-saint. Then, Yang Dingtian could try to fight it alone. If he had reached the half-holy class, Yang Dingtian would have no choice but to flee. Yang Dingtian fell into some hesitation. Although this balrog did not reach the level of a half-saint, it was obviously very close to it. Whether or not he could destroy it by himself was still an unknown. Once the fight started, it might even be life-threatening. However, Yang Dingtian had searched for so long and finally found a balrog. How could he give up? Fight. If he couldn't beat it, he could just run. Therefore, Yang Dingtian decided to fight. There was only one way to deal with the balrog, and that was to use ice-type attacks. Any other attacks would be ineffective. Yang Dingtian pulled out his Emperor-grade soul sword and slashed out an ice-cold profound chi sword light. Whoosh! Infinite Grandmaster's ice-cold sword light directly slashed the balrog's head. Crack! In an instant, the balrog suddenly dodged. This ice-cold profound chi only hit its tail. In an instant, its entire tail was completely frozen and then suddenly broke. Roar! The balrog was furious and let out a furious roar. Suddenly, the entire cavern shook violently. Countless streams of magma gushed out. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the balrog's countless tentacle whips crazily whipped towards Yang Dingtian. There were dozens of tentacles, each with a high temperature of tens of thousands of degrees. Being whipped once, they were directly turned into ashes. Each force was more than 1,000,000 pounds. Clap 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 clap, immediately, the entire cave was whipped until it exploded, and rocks flew everywhere. Yang Dingtian used the Devil Spirit Mist cloak and frantically dodged these countless flame whips. Roar! At the same time, the balrog suddenly spewed out flames that soared into the sky, wanting to completely devour Yang Dingtian. At the same time, dozens of miles away, Yaoli suddenly crouched down and pressed her ear to the ground. She immediately felt a strong vibration. There are elemental creatures 30 miles ahead, Yaoli said. Immediately, everyone was pleasantly surprised. Previously, it took a full year before they found an ownerless elemental creature. This time, just over half a month later, they actually discovered one. Of course, whether it had an owner or not, they did not know. Hence, the 5 people advanced at lightning speed. Very soon, they saw this balrog's cave. This is a new cave. No one should have discovered it yet. Furthermore, looking at the size of the cave, it should be a rank 11 Balrog. The 5 of us should be able to kill it if we fight with all our might. Yao Li said, quick, take advantage of the fact that others haven't discovered it yet. Strive to finish the battle within half a day. Yes. The remaining 4 people answered. Then, Yao Li led the team, and the 5 people rushed into the cave at lightning speed. But before reaching the bottom of the cave, they heard the sounds of intense battle. The few people exchanged glances. Finally discovering a new cave with great difficulty, it actually had an owner. What to do? Everyone immediately looked at Yao Li. An abyss cave with an owner, rushing in meant an offense, it meant a massacre. However, not rushing in, Yao Li was seriously unwilling. Go in, this place is the law of the jungle to begin with. Don't blame us either, Yao Li said coldly, then directly rushed in. After entering the enormous abyss giant cave, they were dumbfounded with shock. That human actually fought a rank 11 Balrog alone. Was this crazy? Although this rank 11 Balrog was the same rank as that 9-headed snake, from a certain extent, it was even more terrifying. The 5 of them, because there were 2 ice attribute experts, that was why they felt that they could fight. And this human's cultivation was even inferior to Yao Li's. He actually dared to go and kill alone. Yao Li and the rest were really going to be blinded. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.